Yes, yes. Peace, Hotep, Ma'at, and Amara. This is your brother Radio One. We live, we in the house. Just gonna wait for some participants to join in. Yeah, but the name of the video is Egyptian Macrobians in West Africa, aka the Ethiopians. Yes. Now, the last time I did this video, something went wrong. It was flagged or taken down, but it never posted. But I fixed that problem, and so we should not have that problem now. So just to let you know. But yeah, for those of you who are just joining in, yes, the name of the video is Egyptian Macrobians in West Africa, aka the Ethiopians. And my last video about this it never posted, it was taken down, it was flagged, but we will not have this problem today. But I'm glad I was able to do this live stream again, because I felt in the other live stream that I didn't stress the fact that these people were in West Africa. Yes, I didn't stress it enough, because I got some backlash from some of you, because some of you still just do not get it. You don't get it. So I have to stress it enough so that you can get it. Yes, Black people in America, you have been kept down for so long. You have been oppressed. You have been enslaved for so long. Okay, you had the white man's foot on your neck for so long that when the truth comes, you can't handle it. It's too much for you. Okay, but I'm here to tell you this truth today. But and we're going to get off into our lesson in a little bit here, but it's going to take a little time out right quick, and let's see here. Okay, we're going to get off into our lesson. Okay. All right, and this video is going to be a little different, but yeah, just hang in there for a minute, and then I'm going to get right back to you. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Yes. Can you hear me? All right. Had it on mute there for a second, but yeah, we're back. So yeah, we're going to get off into the lesson in a little bit. Okay, but for those of you who are just joining us, the name of the video is Egyptian Macrobians in West Africa, aka the Ethiopians. Now, we have been told for so long that these people, known as Ethiopians or Macrobians or long-lived Ethiopians, dwelt in the Horn of Africa. Okay, that's what we have been told. And we today, okay, this is how it's going to work with me. I'm going to post a source first, and then after we read the source, I'm going to give my honest interpretation on the source, because I see too many times on these other platforms where the pseudo scholar is going on and on and on and never showing any source. So most of these platforms, it's not about the sources. It's not about the truth. It's about them. Okay? It's always about the pseudo scholar, who, whether if you're watching a documentary okay, such as Hidden Colors or whatever, or any other documentary where the scholar is sitting on the couch and he's going on and on about his knowledge, where he never shows any sources. And when you go fact check or proof check what he's talking about, you can't find it. So a lot of these platforms, they never show the source. And why they never show the source? Because they're being dishonest. They lying to you, okay? So that's why I'm going to show the source first, and then I'm going to give my honest interpretation on the source. Okay, so we have brother Jose Gomez in the house. Yes, peace to you, brother. Welcome. Welcome to the house of truth. Okay, welcome. All right. We're going to get started with the lesson in a little bit. But yes, welcome, brother Jose Gomez and everyone else who is tuning in. Okay. Now, we have been told so long, you African Americans have nothing to do with Egypt. You come from West Africa. Okay. And while your history was being credited to the Somalians or the Somalis and the people of Horn of Africa, what you were doing, you're going around accepting these pseudo-fabricated DNA studies given to you by the white racists. Yes, my brothers and sisters, I must tell you, I must let you know, I can't stress it enough. You have to give up these fake pseudo DNA studies. You have to give it up. You have to give it up. Because if you don't, you're never going to be able to accept the truth. It's impossible. You can't accept the truth believing in this late pseudo history and these late fabricated DNA studies that were given to you by white racists. Yes. The first person, or the person who started and created these genome and DNA studies, is a white man named James Watson. Look him up. He's a white racist. He is the one who started these pseudo DNA studies that you believe in and that you have so much faith in. But I'm telling you, gotta give it up. Okay, until they fix it, you can't entertain it. You can't believe in it. You have to accept it as a lie, because that's what it is. Okay, what does a doctor tell a crackhead? Okay, if you want to live, you gotta give up the crack. If you don't stop smoking crack, you're not going to make it. That's what the doctor tells a crackhead. Okay, and that's what I'm telling you. If you don't give up these late pseudo DNA studies, you're not going to be able to accept the truth. It's impossible. Okay. Okay. I don't believe in it. I don't entertain it. So if I can do it, you can do it. But until then, let's teach this truth left to us by the ancients. Okay. So now we're going to get off into the lesson. Okay. Now, my last video, I'm going to touch on it briefly on the location of the Macrobians. And then afterwards, I'm going to go over the Egyptian origin of the ancient Ethiopians. That's what I'm going to go over. Okay. So I'm going to touch briefly on the location of the Macrobians. Then afterwards, I'm going to show the Egyptian origin of the ancient Ethiopians. Yes, I must do that because they have been trying to discredit the ancient Ethiopians of their Egyptian origin. Okay, and there's a reason why they're doing this. Because they don't want you to claim Egypt. Because they know, first of all, they don't want you claiming Ethiopia. They took away Ethiopian from you. That's why West Africa is called West Africa today. It used to be called Ethiopia. So they took away Ethiopia because they know when you research Ethiopia, you're going to find your connection to Egypt. Okay, and it's irrefutable. It's undeniable. And those are the facts we're going to get off into today. So yeah, let's get it in. Okay, we're going to do some screen share. Okay, let's get it in. All right. Right. No more lies. Okay. So let's deal with the source. Okay. Now, I read this last time and I'm going to read it again and I'm going to touch on it briefly. Okay. Let's okay. Yeah, we're going to go for about maybe an hour and a half today. I want to keep it around that time frame, but it's going to be a little different from last time. And I'm going to repeat some of the things I said last time, but I'm going to stress it because I feel I haven't stressed it hard enough for y'all because some of y'all still don't get it. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go. So yeah, we're gonna start the lesson here. Okay, we got 5 people in the house. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Let's get this truth out. Okay, let's get it out bit by bit. We might not be able to cover it all, but we'll be able to cover most. But yeah, okay. Now we're going to begin with this quote, and I'm going to touch on it briefly, as I said before. This is from Herodotus, okay? Herodotus, book 3, chapter 17, and I'm not going to be too long on it, but keep in mind, for those who were tuned in last time, we may have some new people in the house, so that's why I'm going to go over this again, but it's going to be brief. Okay, so this is Herodotus, the histories. Okay, Herodotus, the histories, book 3, 17. He says, in quote, after this, Cambyses planned 3 several expeditions, one against the Carthaginians, another against the Ammonians, and a third against the long-lived Ethiopians who dwell in that part of Libya which is by the southern sea. Okay, so now we just read that from Herodotus. Okay, according to Herodotus, the long-lived Ethiopians. Now that word "long-lived," that is the translation for Macrobian. Okay, but let us go here to the works from the person who started this lie. Okay, who originated this lie that the Macrobians were in Somalia or in the Horn of Africa. And we're going to touch on it briefly. And this is from the book, okay, The Works of Herodotus, okay? You can look it up. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, Herodotus' works from German, okay, written in 1938, written by Arnold Hermann Ludwig Herodotus in 1838, okay, year 1838. And this is what he had to say about the Macrobians. He goes on to say, Bruce, which is another geographer named James Bruce takes the Macrobians for a tribe of the Shangalas, dwelling in the lower parts of the gold countries, Kuba and Nuba, on both sides of the Nile, to the north of Fazukla. Okay, so he's saying that Bruce, or James Bruce, believed the Macrobians to be located on the White Nile in the where the Nuba Mountains is. Okay, but as we just read from Herodotus, that's not true. But we're going to get more off into that as well. Then Ludwig Herodotus says, in quote, but however probable this proof may appear, I cannot adopt the opinion started by this traveler. I feel rather inclined to believe that the Macrobians must be sought for farther south in another region. None of the Shangalas that we know of dwell in cities or have reached that degree of civilization imputed to the Macrobians. Okay, Herodotus mentions three particulars which may help us discover the seat of this nation. Okay, they dwell, he says, on the southern sea, at the farthest corner of the earth. In Cambyses, when he turned back and had not reached the fifth part of the way of their to their abode, okay, he says, if we should take these statements, especially the latter, according to the letter, then the Macrobians must be sought for not only on the Indian Sea, but very far to the south. Now, according to Ludwig Herring, okay, he's saying that Herodotus is saying this, okay, but according to him, okay, according to Ludwig, this is Ludwig Herring's words, but he's trying to say that Herodotus was saying this, which Herodotus did not say. But Ludwig Herring ignored Herodotus. He ignored the clues of Herodotus and came up with his own theories based on his own imagination. It had nothing to do with Herodotus. Now, according to him, the Macrobians dwelt on the Indian Ocean, or the southern or south of Egypt. Okay, that's according to him. Okay, but let's go to Herodotus again. Okay, let's go to Herodotus. Okay, so we just read Ludwig Herring, and also let's look at the map. Okay, now I showed this map last time. I'm going to show it again. Okay, because it's very important, and we're going to be real brief on this. Now we see here on the map. Now this map, this is a pseudo map. This is a pseudo map. It was created by an anonymous Wikipedia user, not by a scholar, but it still doesn't make any difference, because what the scholar says is also false too. But this map, everything is wrong with this map. Okay, this map is pseudo. It's not historically accurate, and it has nothing to do with what Herodotus said. Okay, let's look at the map. Okay, now we just read the quote from Herodotus that the Macrobians dwelt in Libya. But look at this map. Why the Macrobians are not on the side of Libya or on the west bank of the Nile? Why they are to the south or near to the east? Okay, near Arabia. We know that they dwelt south, but Herodotus also said they dwelt west in Libya. But okay, they're to the south, but they're not in the west. They're not in Libya. When Herodotus clearly said that they were located in Libya. And we see here Libya. We see Libya west of the Nile on this map. So that goes to show you how wrong this map is. Okay, and got Arabia as east of the Nile. So they got the Macrobians placed in Arabia, not even in Libya. So it's that right there is the first error. Okay, that's not the only error, but that's the first error. Okay, and this map is pseudo. And look, he got every other nation of people that Herodotus mentioned as being in Libya. This map has them placed in Libya. He mentions the Cyrene, Carthage, Atlas, all of them in Libya. And this map shows them in Libya, but it doesn't show the Macrobians in Libya. So this map is wrong. And look, it got the Nile flowing from Atlas. Herodotus says nowhere that the Nile River flows from the Atlas Mountains. Okay, now he thought the Nile River flowed from the west, from west to east, but he never said that it flows from the Atlas Mountains. So this map is pseudo. Okay, it is made up. It is based on the person whoever made this map. It is based on his own imagination. It has nothing to do with what Herodotus said. Okay. But yeah, there you have it. There's the lie right there in this map. Okay, but we're going to continue. Let's continue. Okay, with what Herodotus said about the Macrobians. Okay. All right. Let's yeah, and this here is this right here makes it very clear where the Macrobians dwelt. Okay. Now it says here, we're dealing with Herodotus, the histories, translated by A.D. Goodley, book 3, 114. And he says, in quote, where south inclines westward, the part of the world stretching farthest towards the sunset is Ethiopia. This produces gold in abundance and huge elephants and all sorts of wild trees and ebony, and the tallest and handsomest and longest lived people. These then are the most distant lands in Asia and Libya. Okay, so we have Herodotus here clearly saying that, okay, where the south inclines, the part of the world stretching farthest towards the sunset is Ethiopia. Okay, so he's saying that Ethiopia, the land of Ethiopia, stretched from east to west. Okay, from east to west. And the Macrobians were the farthest people towards the west. And we're also going to read this account here from Herodotus as well. Okay. All right. So that goes to show that according to Herodotus, okay, the Macrobians dwelt towards the farthest west. Okay, and that contradicts what Ludwig Herring says. He says nothing about them dwelling. Yes, he places them south, but he places them in the farthest west. Okay. See, but Ludwig Herring, he is saying that they dwelt south. And the reason why I'm dealing with Ludwig Herring, because he was the first. He was the first to start this lie. But let's continue on here. Okay. Now where is that quote? Okay. But yeah, let's see here. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to touch on this again as well. He says, after this, Cambyses planned 3 several expeditions, one against the Carthaginians, another against the Ammonians, and a third against the long-lived Ethiopians who dwell in that part of Libya, which is by the southern sea. Now, when he says that part of Libya, which is by the southern sea, okay, now we have to keep in mind that Libya is west of the Nile, okay? And he says here in Herodotus, the Histories, book 4, 196, he says, the Carthaginians say also this, namely that there is a place in Libya and men dwelling there, outside of the Pillars of Hercules. So Herodotus here is saying that the land outside of the Pillars of Hercules was also Libya. Okay, and I'm going to show you a map here. I'm going to show you a map here to clarify what I'm talking about. Okay, now look at this map. What's going on here? Okay. Let's go back to this map. Now look at this map. Okay. This is what Herodotus is talking about. Now you see it. Okay. Have the Pillars of Hercules right here on the top. Okay. And Herodotus talking about outside of the Pillars of Hercules. And you see here that outside of the Pillars of Hercules goes south. So when he says the southern sea of Libya, he is talking about Libya south of the Pillars of Hercules. Or he is talking about the coastal region of Libya south of the Pillars of Hercules. Okay. And we see it goes all the way south down here to Cameroon. Okay. And we see here that the Macrobians dwelt far south of the Pillars of Hercules. Okay. And I'm going to show why I placed the Macrobians there later on. But see, and we see the southern sea. That's what he's talking about. That's the Libya he is talking about. Now you have Libya, northern Libya, that goes from east to west, from Egypt to the Pillars of Hercules. Okay. That's northern Libya. Okay. But when he says Libya on the southern sea, he is talking about south of the Pillars of Hercules. Okay. And that's what, and he never calls this part here Libya, the Red Sea coast. He never calls it Libya. Okay. He just calls it the Erythraean Sea, the shores of the Erythraean Sea. So, but the Libya he's talking about was south of the Pillars of Hercules. And we just found that out according to Herodotus himself. Okay. And but yeah, let's move on here. Okay. Let's move on. Now I'm going to point out one thing, and then I'm going to continue on with the lesson. Okay. Now, let's see here. Okay. All right. Yeah, just let me know if you can't hear me. Just leave if the volume ever go low, or if you can't hear me at all, just let me know in the chat, and I'll fix it. Okay. But as of now, everything is so far so good, so we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I want to point out one thing, then I'm going to move on. Okay. Because I want to focus on the lie here. Okay. Okay. I want to focus on the lie here. But as we just read, okay, the Libya that Herodotus is talking about, that the Macrobians dwelt on, was south of the Pillars of Hercules. And we see here, he said, the Carthaginians say also this, namely that there's a place in Libya and man dwelling there outside of the Pillars of Hercules. So, and those men dwelling there were none other than the Macrobians, or long-lived Ethiopians. And we also see here in book 3, chapter 17, he says, after this, Cambyses planned 3 several expeditions, one against the Carthaginians, another against the Ammonians, and a third against the long-lived Ethiopians who dwell in that part of Libya, which is by the southern sea. Now we see here that they are grouped. The Macrobians are grouped with the Carthaginians and the Ammonians, who were also a people of Libya. So showing you that Cambyses was going west. He was heading west. Okay, he was going to send a fleet of ships towards the west, Carthage, and march an army farther west in West Africa. And he tried to send an army west to the Ammonians or Siwa, and that failed also. But all of these people, all 3 of these groups that's mentioned in book 3, chapter 17, dwelt west of the Nile. Okay, the Carthaginians dwelt northwest, the Ammonians dwelt west and midwest, and the Macrobians dwelt extreme west. Okay, so that's what you have to understand. Okay, but yeah, here's another lie I want to expose, and then I'm going to move on after this. Okay, because we're not going to stay too long on this like we did last time, because there's another subject I want to get off into. Okay, but yeah, but that's okay. Now he says this. I'm going to point this out as well. Okay, and the reason for me pointing this out is to show you that they knew the truth. Okay, these map makers, they knew the truth. Ludwig Herrien, they knew the truth, but they kept it hidden. Okay, know why? Because it's dealing with you. Okay, they don't want you, black people in America, descendants of slaves. They don't want you to know who you are. Now we also have to keep in mind that Ludwig Herrien was writing during the time when the slave trade was going on, when slavery was going on. So they have been, they made these errors and mistakes on purpose. Okay, that's what I believe. I believe they knew the truth, but because of their racism and their dishonesty, they did not tell the truth, and they did not show the truth in their maps. Okay, and did not write the truth in their books. But they knew the truth. I'm going to show you that they knew the truth and they lied. Now, this is from Herodotus, the Histories, book 4, chapter 49. He says, "For the Ister flows in fact through the whole of Europe, beginning in the land of the Keltoi, or the Celts, who after the Carnesians dwell farthest towards the sunset of all the peoples of Europe. Okay, Herodotus, book 4, chapter 49. Okay, so he is saying here that the Celts, or the Celts, Keltoi, they were the farthest people towards the sunset. Okay, that's what he's saying here. Okay, and when we look on the map, we see here on the top that the Celts are placed towards the farthest sunset. Okay, right here. Matter of fact, let's go to my other map. Okay, let's go to my other map. And yeah, this right here. Okay, look at that. And he wrote that Indians dwelt towards the farthest sunrise. Okay, and I read that before, and you can read that also in I believe book 3, chapter 98 or 100. And but we're not going to spend too much time on it. But I'm showing you that, look, they place the Celts towards the farthest sunset. Now, I just read that the Macrobians also dwelt towards the farthest sunset, but they did not place the Macrobians towards the farthest sunset. Okay, yes, they dwelt south, but they also dwelt west of Africa. Okay, and it should have been placed southwest. And since the map makers of this map did not have it in them to tell the truth, well, I corrected the map. Okay, and I'm going to show you the truth. Okay, and here's the truth. Okay, this is the correction right here. Okay, now we see it. Look at that. This is the map I corrected, placing the Macrobians in their right exact location. Okay, placing the Macrobians in their rightful location. So you see here, I placed them south of Atlas on this map, and they place in the farthest sunset in Libya, west of the Nile, towards the farthest sunset on the west coast of Africa. Yes, that is the accurate location for the Macrobians. And you see here, they place Atlas towards the farthest west. Okay, everybody but the Macrobians, everybody but the ancestors of the Black Americans. Okay, you have to see the lie. This is the lie. But hold on. But yes, so we see here the lie before our very face. The lie before our very eyes. Okay, Carthage west of the Nile, Cyrene west of the Nile, the Celts placed towards the farthest west, towards the sunset. The Indians in their rightful location in the farthest east. Okay, but the Macrobians were not. But I corrected that. Okay, so could somebody please explain to me how West Africa ended up in the Horn of Africa? Can you explain that to me? Okay, how did West Africa end up in the Horn of Africa? That makes no sense. Okay, but yeah, let's move on here. Okay, so we have 5 people in the building. Welcome. You're more than welcome to leave a comment, to let you know that you're in a house. Now, I'm going to do something here, okay? Okay, we're going to look up the definition of West, okay? Because some of you just don't get it. You just don't get it, okay? Let's look up the definition of West, because I'm telling you, this racism in these pseudo fields of studies that you're following, making you dumb as hell. Okay, it is making you dumber and dumber. It is causing you to reject the truth. Okay, I mean it's sad. It's very sad. But okay, it is these religions, this pseudoscience and these fake DNA studies and all that is causing you to live a lie and to reject the truth and reject reality. Okay, but let's look up the definition of West. Okay, and I just want to stress my point. Okay, here's the definition of West, and we're going to move on because some of you just don't get it. Some of you are grown people. You're grown people, and you act like you play dumb, and you act like you don't know this stuff because you want to live your life. You want to push your agenda, and you want to continue to deceive our people. And what you're doing is wrong. Okay? So here's the definition of West. We're going to touch on this and move on. See, Merriam's Webster Dictionary. Okay? The definition of West. The general direction of sunset, okay? The direction to the left of one facing north, okay? Or the compass point directly opposite to the east, okay? So we see here that the definition of West is the general direction of sunset, towards the sunset. That's what it means, okay? So when Herodotus says that the Macrobians dwelt farthest west in Libya, he is without a doubt referring to West Africa. Nothing more said. Okay? Okay, you can't refute that. So, and I just wanted to touch on that because some of you Negroes you follow these studies and it's making you dumb. It's making you very dumb. Very dumb. Okay, and when someone confronts you on it, you start stuttering and mumbling and getting frustrated because you can't accept the truth. Now, let's move on. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. So now we know that West means sunset. And according to Herodotus, the Macrobians dwelt in the extreme west of Africa. Okay, and that settles that argument. Okay. Okay, and the Horn of Africa is not towards the west. It's not, as a matter of fact, it's not west of the Nile River, and it's definitely not on the west, in the farthest west of Africa. As a matter of fact, it's in the farthest east of Africa. Okay, and I just wanted to touch on that. So let's check the chat. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay, we have 6 people in the building. Welcome, welcome. All right. Now, okay. Now we're done with that. Okay, but I just wanted to show you that because I have to stress that. Okay, the falsehood of this map right here. Okay, that did not place the Macrobians in their rightful location. Why? Because they were the ancestors of African Americans in West Africa. So they have to keep this truth hidden so they can keep us enslaved and keep us down. Okay. So we have no pride, you know, and nothing to motivate us. Okay. But this is the truth. Okay. Now to my Somalian brothers and sisters. Okay. You don't need Herodotus. Okay, Herodotus is mostly dealing with Egypt and West Africa. Yes, he says he gives no description of the Horn of Africa. And you don't need him. Why? Because Punt in the land of Kush, your ancestors were mentioned in the Medu or the hieroglyphics written 1,000 to 1,500 years before Herodotus. Okay, so stop trying to take away our little glory. Okay, let us have our glory. Okay, now when we deal with Herodotus, Herodotus is the histories of the sunsets. Yes, when Herodotus came into Egypt and started writing, okay, the powerful dynasties, the 18th dynasty, the 25th dynasty was over. Those people were no longer in Egypt. Yes, So Herodotus is dealing with the history of the sunset. Okay? Meaning, just another way of saying that Herodotus is dealing with the history of the descendants of these ancient Egyptians. Okay? Which is why he speaks on the West, because the West is the land of the sunset. Okay? That's what you have to understand. The West is the land of the dead. The west of Egypt, okay? From the west bank of the Nile to the Atlantic Ocean is the land of the descendants, the living descendants of dead kings, of old dead kings, okay? Now, or the living descendants of the Pharaohs. It's another way to put it. Now, we're going to move on, but yeah, we touched on that. This map is pseudo. That is a lie. Okay. And this map here is the truth. This is the truth. Okay. The Macrobians in the western part of Africa towards the sunset. Okay. Now, I don't know what the agenda was of all these old geographers, but they got it wrong. And they ignored the facts and the clues given by Herodotus, and they got it wrong. They never came to an exact location, okay? And they made the south of Egypt the west of Egypt, and it makes no sense. But we see here that this map is the truth. Now let's move on here, okay? Now we're going to deal with who the Eastern Ethiopians were, okay? Because the only way we can find out who the Western Ethiopians were, or the Ethiopians of West Africa, the Macrobians, we have to take a deeper look into the Eastern Ethiopians, okay? Because whoever the Eastern Ethiopians were, the people south of Egypt, that's who the Western Ethiopians were. They were the same people, okay? But let's go down here, okay? Now, and then I'm going to get off into some meta-netter as well, some hieroglyphics. Let's see how many people in the house. Okay, we have, okay, 6 people, okay? Now, let's get off into the meta-netter, okay? I mean, we're going to deal with Herodotus a little bit more, okay? Now, whatever I didn't cover and whatever I want to stress, I will save it for another live stream, okay? But we're going to focus on this subject here. And we're going to go to Herodotus, the Histories, Book 4, Chapter 197. He says, in quotes, "These are all the Libyans whom we can name. The majority of their kings care nothing for the king of the Medes. I have this much further to say of this country. 4 nations and no more, as far as we know, inhabited, 2 of which are aboriginal and 2 not. The Libyans in the north and the Ethiopians in the south of Libya are aboriginal. The Phoenicians and Greeks are later settlers." Okay, so now we see here, according to Herodotus, Libya was inhabited by 4 nations, 2 indigenous and 2 foreign. Okay, he says the Libyans in the north and the Ethiopians in the south are the indigenous. Okay, so we're going to focus on the Ethiopians in the south. Okay, so remember, he's talking about Libya here. Okay, Libya. So now, so that we get a better understanding of Libya, okay, let us go to here. Okay, where is that quote at? So we get a better understanding of Libya. Let us go here. Okay, and this is Herodotus. Okay, this is the source, as you can see here. Okay, I'm going to blow it up so we can see it. Okay. Because the problem with the pseudo scholar, this is what you have to understand. The pseudo scholar tries to go outside of Herodotus to prove Herodotus. You can't do that. You have to prove Herodotus with Herodotus. Okay. You can't go to a 17th century or 18th century source to try to prove what Herodotus says. No, that right there is what we call committing fraud. Okay. That is forgery. You can't do that. That's pseudo scholarship at its best. Okay. So now let's go here. Okay. Now, see here, Herodotus, chapter 2. Okay. All right. But we're going to read this here. Okay. This is from Herodotus. The histories translated by A.D. Goodley. Okay. I blowed it up so you can see it. Okay. And he goes on to say, Herodotus, the histories, book 2, chapter 8. He says, beyond and above Heliopolis, Egypt is a narrow land, for it is bounded on the one side by the mountains of Arabia, which run north to south. Okay. Always running south towards the Red Sea, towards the sea called the Red Sea. Okay. In these mountains are quarries that are hewn out for making the pyramids at Memphis. So we see here that, keep that in mind. Okay. Memphis was where the pyramids stood. Okay. Let's keep that in mind. Okay. But let's move on here. So he says Egypt on one side is called Arabia. One side of the Nile is called Arabia, meaning the east side of the Nile, the east bank of the Nile. And he goes on to say here, okay, in the same next, he says, such are these mountains. On the side of Libya, Egypt is bounded by another range of rocky mountains, among which are the pyramids. Okay, these are all covered with sand and run in the same direction as those Arabian hills that run southward. So we see here, according to Herodotus, okay, that the side of Libya or is where the pyramids stand. Okay, so he is saying that the pyramids, okay, are located on the west bank of the Nile. That is where Libya starts, and this is the first time where he mentions Libya. Okay, and but let us go to our map here so we can show what Herodotus is talking about. Okay, let's go to the map. Okay, this is what Herodotus is talking about. We're on the map of Africa. Herodotus, book 2, chapter 8. Okay, the map shows Libya on the west bank of the Nile and Arabia on the east bank of the Nile. Okay. Okay, so Libya is strictly dealing with the west of the Nile. And look, it says the pyramids. Okay, the pyramids is located on the west bank of the Nile. Okay, if you don't believe me, you can look it up for yourself. Now, and we see here, okay, another map. Libya, the larger Libya, which is west of the Nile. Okay, greater Libya, and Arabia towards the east of the Nile. So that's what Herodotus is talking about. Okay, Libya, where the pyramids are. So when he mentions the Ethiopians in Libya, he's talking about the Ethiopians east. He's talking about, when he mentions the Ethiopians in Libya, he is talking about the Ethiopians west of the Nile. Okay, west of the Nile River, from the west of the Nile to the Atlantic Ocean, where Libya ends. Okay, which is the western boundary of Libya is the Atlantic Ocean, or the west coast of Africa. That's what Herodotus is talking about. Okay, and we see here, this is the map showing the temples and the pyramids. Okay, showing you, look here, the pyramids are on the west bank of the Nile. The Sphinx of Giza and the pyramids located on the west bank of the Nile, as you can see here. Okay, so that's what Herodotus means. Okay, in the Horn of Africa is not on the west bank of the Nile. So that was a huge error that was created by those 17th century and 18th century geographers. But yeah, okay, and he says, okay, let us go back here. So we just got through reading that the Ethiopians in Libya, the Ethiopians south of Libya, what we just read, okay? Now, who were these Ethiopians south of Libya? Now, here's an interesting quote from Herodotus, okay? And this is in book 7, chapter 70, okay? And this is Herodotus, the Histories, book 7, chapter 70. He says, in quotes, of the Ethiopians above Egypt and the Arabians, the commander, I say, was Arsames. But the Ethiopians from the direction of the sunrise, for the Ethiopians were in two bodies, have been appointed to serve with the Indians. The Ethiopians from the east are straight-haired, but those of Libya have more thick and woolly, okay, let's read it over again, okay? He says, of the Ethiopians above Egypt and of the Arabians, the commander, I say, was Arsames. But the Ethiopians from the direction of the sunrise, for the Ethiopians were in two bodies, have been appointed to serve with the Indians. The Ethiopians from the east are straight-haired, but those of Libya have hair more thick and woolly than that of any other man. Okay? So now, according to Herodotus, he says the Ethiopians above Egypt. So he placed the Ethiopians above Egypt in Libya. Okay? So what does this mean? This means that the Ethiopians he's speaking of south of Egypt dwelt on the west bank of the Nile. Okay? On the west bank of the Nile River. That's what he is talking about. And he mentions Ethiopians from the direction of the sunrise, who have been grouped with the Indians. And he says, but Herodotus admits here, okay, says here in book 3, he says, let's read this. Herodotus, the Histories, book 3, chapter 100. He says, these Indians whom I have described have intercourse openly like cattle. They are all black-skinned like the Ethiopians. These Indians dwell far away from the Persians southwards. So he's pretty much saying here that those Ethiopians, those Eastern Ethiopians were not real Ethiopians, not true Ethiopians, but they were actually Indians who had the same skin color or who were black like the Ethiopians, who were black like the real Ethiopians in Africa. The true Ethiopians were the Ethiopians in Africa. So that's what Herodotus is saying here, okay? But he's pretty much saying that these were Southern Indians who had the same skin color as the true Ethiopians in Africa, but they were not really true Ethiopians, but they were actually Indians. And he's clarifying that here. So the true Ethiopians are the Ethiopians in Africa, okay? And we also see in later historians such as Diodorus Siculus and Strabo, they make no mention of Eastern Ethiopians in India. They only mention Ethiopians in Africa because those are the true Ethiopians, okay, which we will find out more, okay? And when you research the origin of these Ethiopians, yes, you will clearly see, and I will touch on it later, you will clearly see that the true Ethiopians were the Ethiopians in Africa. So that's what he's talking about here, okay? But let's move on. So let's focus on the true Ethiopians in Libya or Africa, okay? Now, he says here, of the Ethiopians above Egypt and of the Arabians, the commander, I say, was Arsames, okay? He says here, but those of Libya have more thick and woolly hair than that of any man. So the question is, who were these Ethiopians of Libya? Okay. Okay, so we have Ethiopians of Libya dwelling directly south of Egypt. So he's pretty much saying that they dwelt on the west bank of the Nile, south of Egypt. Okay, because when Herodotus deals with the south of Egypt, whether if being Thebes or Waset in Upper Egypt or the land of Kush, he says nothing about the people to the east of the Nile. Okay, he only speaks of the people on the west of the Nile, which he calls Libya. So who were these Ethiopians in Libya, south of Egypt? Okay, now to answer that, let's go to Herodotus, the Histories, book 2, chapter 29. He says, in quote, the country above Elephantine now begins to be inhabited by Ethiopians. Half the people of the islands are Ethiopians and half Egyptians. Near the island is a great lake on whose shores live nomadic Ethiopians. Okay, so the Ethiopians whom Herodotus was speaking of in book 7 are these nomadic Ethiopians or nomad Ethiopians who live south of Egypt. Those are the Ethiopians Herodotus is speaking of. Okay. And those are the Ethiopians who are related to the Macrobians as well. And we see here that he speaks of Ethiopians on the island. The name of this island is Tachomso. Okay, and on this island were dwelt a mixture of Ethiopians and Egyptians. Okay, so he's saying here that the Ethiopians were mixed with Egyptians. Yes. Okay, wherever the Ethiopians were, the Egyptians were. Okay, so that's what he's saying here. But let's go to this quote. Okay, now, and as I just showed, okay, so when he speaks of Ethiopians in Libya, he's talking about these nomad Ethiopians and the Macrobian Ethiopians to the far, far west. Okay, which we will go back here. Okay, so when he says here that, oops, that's okay. All right, let's go back to this. Okay, so when he says here, as one passes the south or southwest, the Ethiopian land is that which extends furthest of all inhabited lands towards the sunset. So he is saying towards the west, okay, the south. When he mentions the south, he is talking about the nomad Ethiopians south of Egypt. Okay, as one passes the south, he's talking about the Ethiopians south of Egypt, the nomad Ethiopians. And when he says the Ethiopian land is that which extends furthest of all inhabited lands towards the sunset, okay, towards the sunset or towards the west or towards the farthest west, he is referring to the Macrobian Ethiopians. Okay, so you had the Ethiopian land extending from the land of the nomad Ethiopians south of Egypt all the way west to the land of the Macrobian Ethiopians on the Atlantic Ocean. And here's the map that I made to show that. Okay, so now look at the map here. Okay, this is what he's talking about. This is what Herodotus is talking about. Okay, see here, got the nomad Ethiopians on the west bank of the Nile. Okay, and he also mentions the troglodyte Ethiopians in book 4 dwelling near the Garamantes. Okay, and here you have the Macrobian Ethiopians towards the southwest. Okay, towards the farthest west in the south. Okay, still west. Okay, or if you want to call it southwest, northwest, west, still west. Okay, but they were in the southwest corner. Okay, so that's what Herodotus is talking about. When he mentions the Ethiopian territory, he sent from the nomad Ethiopians south of Egypt all the way west to the Macrobians south of the Atlantic in West Africa. Okay. But it was all Ethiopian territory. Okay. Now, some Ethiopian tribes he skipped over. As a matter of fact, he skipped over all of the interior of Africa just to mention the Macrobians. But still, all the interior of Africa was Ethiopian land. Okay. Whether it be Chad, Niger, Mali, all that was Ethiopian land. But he's mentioning, he gives honorable mention, special attention to the Macrobians, okay, because they were a great and powerful people, okay, very important people, and they were the ancestors of African Americans and West Africans today, okay. Now, let us move on, okay. So now we see here, that's what he's talking about when he mentions the Ethiopians of Libya, okay. And we also going to touch on this as well. Okay. Now let's go here. Who are these other Ethiopians? These other Ethiopians near Egypt, the Ethiopians of Libya. Okay. He says, let's go to Herodotus, the Histories, book 2, chapter 42. He says, in quote, hence the Egyptians make the image of Zeus into the face of a ram, and the Ammonians do so also after their example, being settlers from both the Egyptians and from the Ethiopians, and using a language which is a medley of both tongues. Okay, so now we see here that he's saying that the Ammonians, who also dwell west of Egypt, okay, near west of Egypt, okay, not extreme west, but near west or west of Egypt, were also Ethiopians. Okay, so the Ethiopians, the original Ethiopians mentioned by Herodotus, the true Ethiopians, the Ethiopians in the east were the Ammonians, okay, of Siwa, and the nomad Ethiopians south of Egypt. Okay, and the westernmost Ethiopians were the Macrobians. That's what he's saying here. Okay, that's exactly what he's saying. So he's dealing with the West. Herodotus is all about the West. Okay, so let's see how many people we have. Okay, now let us continue here. Okay, so now we already dwelt with that. Okay, we dealt with who were the Ethiopians of Libya, and but let us get a closer look at who these Ethiopians were. Okay, and now we dealt with the Ethiopians of Libya from the west bank of the Nile to the Atlantic Ocean. Now let's deal with the Ethiopians to the farther south. Okay, the Ethiopians of Napata, that region. Okay, modern day Meroe, Meroe. Now here's what he says. Okay, now this here gives us a clear picture of who the Ethiopians were in their ties to Egypt. Okay, he says here, Herodotus, the Histories, book 2, chapter 29. He says, you come to a great city called Meroe, which is said to be the capital of all Ethiopia. The people of the place worship no other gods but Zeus and Dionysus. Okay, so and so we see here that the Ethiopians worship Zeus and Dionysus. So who was Zeus and Dionysus? Let's get it here from book 2, chapter 242. Okay, and he says, let's read it again. He says here on the bottom, and in my opinion, it is from this god that the Ammonians took the name which they have, for the Egyptians called Zeus Amun. Okay, and he also says here, let's go here. Okay, so we see here that Zeus is Amun, and the Ethiopians worship the same gods as the Egyptians. Yes. So that's what it's saying. And let's go here. Book 2, chapter 242. Okay. Okay, and he says here in book 2, chapter 242, Herodotus. He says, for no gods are worshipped by all Egyptians in common except Isis and Osiris, who they say is Dionysus. These are worshipped by all alike. Okay, so he's saying that all Egyptians worship Osiris, whom they in Isis, okay, and they call Dionysus Osiris. Okay, so we see here that the Ethiopians worship the same gods as the Egyptians, okay, which is Dionysus or Osiris and Zeus or Amun, okay. So we see here the Egyptians the Ethiopians were descendants of Egyptians in southern Egyptians who worship Zeus or Amun, okay. So we might as well say that the original Ethiopians were southern Egyptians, because it says here that all Egyptians worship Dionysus or Osiris. And we know that, okay, we know here that the southern Egyptians in Thebes worship Zeus or Amon. So these ancestors of the Ethiopians who mixed with the indigenous people there were southern Egyptians. That's what it's saying, okay? Now, let us move on. Okay, let's move on to the next quote. It says, from the Egyptians, okay. But yeah, saying here that the Ammonians in the southern Egyptians in Thebes worship Amun, and we found out that the Ethiopians worship the same gods. And it was the southern Egyptians who were the first. Now we have to keep it historical, okay? Because we have a lot of pseudo historians who like to take historical fact out of context. Now you have some that try to make it seem like that it was the Ethiopians or the Kushites who worship Amun and Osiris first. No, that is a lie. Okay, it was the southern Egyptians who started the worship of Amun. Okay, the southern Egyptians, and from the southern Egyptians, they went south and they went west. Okay, they went south to the Pata, and in Kush, and they went west to Siwa, or the land of the Ammonians, and farther west to the Macrobians. Okay, this is who the Ethiopians were. Okay, they worship the same gods as the Egyptians. Why? Because they were descendants of Egyptians. Yes, their ancestors came from Egypt. Okay, that's historical. That is historical. And modern day Egyptologists try to deprive Sudan of their Egyptian origin, because they know that you also going to find out that you have an Egyptian origin, because our ancestors were the same as these people. Okay, whatever their origin was, our origin was. Okay, and we see here that the Ethiopians, okay, we mentioned Merowe is said to be the capital of all Ethiopia. All Ethiopians worship the god Zeus. Zeus or Amon, worship Amon or Zeus in Osiris and Dionysus, showing, and we also read that the Egyptians, all Egyptians worship Osiris and Isis, but only the southern Egyptians in Thebes or Waset worship both Osiris and Amun. So we see here the southern Egyptian or the southern Egyptian kinship of the Ethiopians. Okay, it makes no sense. Some Egyptologists try to say, well, yeah, this only proves that the Kushites were influenced by the Egyptians, but they were not Egyptians. No, that is a lie. Okay, That is a lie. There's no way these Ethiopians are going to be worshiping these gods and building temples of these gods if they did not come from Egypt. Okay, these were Egyptians. Okay, not no converts or none of that. These were actual Egyptians settled in the land of Kush and in the western part of Africa. Okay, I mean, how is it going to be a boundary of Egypt, a part of Egypt, if Egyptians are not settled there? That makes no sense. Like I said, this racism and these agendas, these late pseudo histories make you dumb. It makes you very dumb. Okay. So the facts are here. The only problem is these modern day scholars are lying. That's the only problem. Okay. Nothing is wrong with the sources. It's the scholar. It's the modern day pseudo scholar. Okay, who believe in DNA studies and 17th century and 18th century sources, okay, to prove their claims, which makes them entirely invalid. It makes them very dumb. Okay, and to all you scholars, you so-called scholars, you pseudo scholars that's watching now, I know everything you know. Okay, but the only difference between me and you, I know it's a lie. Okay. And let's go here, okay? Now, this is very interesting. Now we just found out that the Ethiopians worship the same gods as the Egyptians, okay? And we don't find that mentioned with the Libyans and the Carthaginians and those people, okay? Only the Ethiopians. And we also found out that the Ethiopians were mixed with Egyptian. They were Egyptian, okay? And Herodotus makes that very clear, okay? But before we get off into some artifacts, I'm going to show some artifacts here. Let's deal with one more. Okay, deal with one more claim. Let us go here. Okay, and we're going to go back to Herodotus, book 2, chapter 29. He says, "You come to a great city called Meroe, which is said to be the capital of all Ethiopia. They have a place of divination sacred to Zeus or Amon. They sent out armies whenever and wherever this god, through his oracle, commands them." Now, Herodotus, the Histories, book 2, chapter 29. Now we see here, according to Herodotus, okay, the Ethiopians were sent out. Okay, it is telling how the Ethiopians got there. Here in this quote. Now, this account here is very important because it tells how the Ethiopians ended up south of Egypt, west of Egypt, and far west of Egypt, extreme west of Egypt. It is telling that here, okay? And it says, okay, they have a place of divination sacred to Zeus. They send out armies whenever and wherever this god, through his command, through his oracle, commands them. So it's saying here that they were sent south of Egypt and west of Egypt, in extreme west of Egypt in West Africa, through the oracle of Amon, or the oracle of Zeus. Okay, the same way they ended up in Sudan, northern Sudan, okay, in the Pata, which I'm going to show in a little bit, in that region, in the Siwa oases. That's how they got there, okay? And this, now we have to look at this, okay? Now we just read that's how they got there. Okay, their ancestors were armies who were sent there on the command of Amun or Zeus. It is telling how they got there, okay? So we don't have to imagine anything. We don't have to put forth any theories because it's telling us right here how they got there. Okay. And for those of you who know me, you know I hate theories. I don't like theories. Okay. I like to go by what the sources say. And we see here, we don't have to theorize. We don't have to guess. Okay. We don't have to lie. Okay, we don't have to lie and tell everything on our own imagination, because it's telling here that that's how they got there. Okay, they got there. Their ancestors were armies who moved on the command of the god Amon. Now, the question is, where did this originate from? Okay, because modern day Meroe or Moreau, we don't find this writing. Okay, we find nothing of this. Okay, so where did this originate from? Okay, and we're going to go to that. Okay, let us go to this source. Okay, and we're going to go to the ancient records of Egypt, the 18th dynasty. Okay, page 193, the Annals of Thutmose III, and this is the ancient records of Egypt, volume 3. Okay, we're going to go to the ancient records of Egypt, 18th dynasty, page 193, the Annals of Thutmose III. And he says, in quote, "All plants grow, all flowers that are in God's land, which were found by his majesty when his majesty proceeded to upper retinue to subdue all countries according to the command of his father Amon, who put them beneath his sandals." So now we see here in the Annals of Thutmose, we see here that Thutmose conquered Retinue, which is the land of Canaan. He was led to conquer Retinue on the command of Amon, on the command of this god Amon. So we see here where Herodotus, book 2, chapter 29, originates from. Okay, the Ethiopians. Okay, these were the ancestors of the Ethiopians. When Herodotus came into Egypt, they were no longer in Egypt. They were outside of Egypt. They were the Ethiopians. That's what this quote is saying. Okay? It says, when his majesty proceeded to upper retinue to subdue all countries according to the command of his father Amon, who put them beneath his sandals. That's what it is saying. Okay? It is saying that the Ethiopians are the descendants of these armies and these kings who conquered lands and settled lands through the command of Amon, which is the original temple of Amon at Karnak. Okay? And when Herodotus was there, these people were no longer in Egypt. These were the people, okay, the ancestors of the Ethiopians. These were the people who made Egypt great, who made Egypt a powerhouse. Okay? The Egypt who would have stopped the Assyrians, who would have stopped the Persians. Okay? Who would have crushed the Persians from invading Egypt. But being that they were there no more, the Persians invaded Egypt and conquered Egypt and brought an end to Egypt because the ancestors of these Ethiopians were no longer there. And these were the ancestors of these Ethiopians. Okay? These southern Egyptians, these powerful Egyptians in southern Egypt were the true ancestors of the Ethiopians. Yes, that's what you have to understand. Okay? Clearly showing, although your ancestors were not in Egypt, but they were in West Africa, in Sudan, showing that those temples, those pyramids still belong to you. Okay? Because the people who built those pyramids, who ruled Egypt, and who protected Egypt were in Ethiopia, were the Ethiopians. South of Egypt, west of Egypt, in extreme west and southwest of Egypt, in what we know today as West Africa. Okay? No temples have to be in West Africa in order to validate your claim. The temples are already in Egypt. You have to look to the temples. You have to look to the text. The answer is in the text. That's what you have to understand. Okay? For those of you going to West Africa and going all over Africa looking for Egyptian artifacts, so you can connect to, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. The answer is in the text, okay? Okay, the temples are in Egypt along the Nile Valley. That's why they are there. So you can find out the story through those temples, okay? In Herodotus placed these people in West Africa, the same land that the ancestors of African Americans were taken from, okay? So that's what you have to understand. The answer is in the text, it's in the source, okay? Forget about all this late stuff, okay? All this late pseudo history, these DNA studies, they were made on purpose. They were made so it can distract you from this, so it can distract you from finding out the truth, okay? So now we see here, okay, that the Ethiopians were both the armies sent out by the Pharaoh of Thebes, but not only that, they were also the descendants of those rulers and kings and priests who controlled these temples, okay? Those people who sent the armies of Amon out also became the Ethiopians. Because when the Persians invaded Egypt, these Egyptians, these ancestors of the Ethiopians were no longer there. They were exiled out of Egypt, okay? And it makes perfect historical sense, okay? When you look at the facts, okay, after the 18th dynasty, we see no more, or after the 19th dynasty, or after the New Kingdom, we see no more imperial Egypt. We see no more the powerful Egypt, the superior Egypt that conquered the world, because they were the Ethiopians. That's what you have to understand, okay? Ethiopia, when Herodotus says the Ethiopians south of Egypt and the Ethiopians towards the farthest sunset, okay, these Ethiopians, or this Ethiopian territory, was the boundary that was sent out by the Egyptians during the 18th dynasty. That's what it's talking about. That's what you have to understand, okay? And I'm going to check the chat, and we're going to move on here for a while, okay? Yes, peace to brother Anthony Harris. Welcome, brother. Welcome to the house. Yes, that's my main man right there, Anthony Harris. Yeah, peace, brother. Thanks for joining in. Okay, and Left Hook fishing now. Okay, welcome, Left Hook fishing now. Okay, but now, and so we see here, okay, showing how much Egyptian the Ethiopians were. Now, I would even go so far to say that the Ethiopians were even more Egyptian than the Egyptians, because all the information about the Ethiopians is coming from the Egyptians. Why it is coming from the Egyptians? Because they were descendants of Egyptians. They were colonies from Egypt. That's how the Egyptians knew about these Ethiopians, okay? And that's why their territory was the same territory that was reached and settled by those Egyptian colonies, okay? That's mentioned in the 18th dynasty. But let's move on here, okay? So we just found out that the Ethiopians, okay, they went out on expeditions. They were the armies sent out by the command of Amon in the city of Thebes, okay? The Ethiopians are deeply connected to southern Egypt, okay? As we see here that they were actually, the Ethiopians were actually the ones who were ruling Egypt, okay, and protecting Egypt. That's who the Ethiopians were. and they migrated out of Egypt as colonies and as refugees after the fall of their city, okay, which I will probably show next, okay. Now, but let us go to the ancient records of Egypt again, okay, and I also want to touch on this as well. Now, you notice when Herodotus says, okay, where the south inclines, the part of the world stretching farthest towards, let me fix that, okay. Where south inclined, the part of the world stretching farthest towards the sunset is Ethiopia, okay. Ethiopia was the land that stretched farthest towards the sunset. And when he says towards the sunset, now a brief mention is made in the annals or the ancient records of Egypt of this far western land towards the sunset, okay? But Herodotus gives more details of it. But we're going to read it from here, okay? Let's blow this up. Okay, this is from the ancient records of Egypt, okay? Volume 3, okay? Let's go up here so I can show you, okay? So I can show you, okay? Ancient records by James Henry Breasted, okay? Volume 3, okay? So that's what it's talking about. Ancient records of Egypt. So that's the book we're in right now, okay? So let's go here. Now, we're going to go to this account here, that was written during the time of Thutmose III. Okay, it says here, it explains the account. It says the shaft of the fallen obelisk, of which only the uppermost section has survived, bears only fragments of the queen's titulary, which has been altered into that of Thutmose III. The base, however, carried an interesting inscription of which the fallen fragments are still visible, okay? So it was written during the reign of Thutmose III in Hatshepsut. So let's blow it up here, okay? So everybody can see it, okay? So now, and it says here, okay, and this is Ancient Records of Egypt, page 134, okay? And it says, excellent, beloved of his majesty, he hath made my kingdom, the black land and the red land are united under my feet. My southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt. My eastern boundary is as far as the marshes of Asia, and the Asiatics are in my grasp. My western boundary is as far as the mountain of Manu, and I rule, okay? So now we see here that it is showing the boundaries, the southern, eastern, and western boundaries of the 18th dynasty, okay? And when it says my southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt, that means the Egyptians were also in the land of Punt, okay? Okay, and the land of Punt is the Horn of Africa, okay? Now, the land of Punt is the Horn of Africa, but not the land of the Macrobians. That's what you have to understand. Okay, the land of Punt has nothing to do with the land of the Macrobians. Okay, and he says my eastern boundary is as far as the marshes of Asia. Now, this is referring to the Tigris and Euphrates region, which they also conquered. And he says my western boundary is as far as the mountain of Manu. Okay, now where was Manu? Okay, we're going to go to that inscription to find out where Manu was, okay? And here's where it mentions Manu, okay? And this is also in the Ancient Records of Egypt, a volume 3, 18th dynasty, page 369, okay? And this is from the inscription of Amenhotep III. And it says, in quote, King Amenhotep, he said, come thou, Amon Ra, Lord of Thebes, presider over Karnak. Thou hast seen thy house which I have made for thee in the west of Thebes. Its beauty mingles with Manu when thou sailest over the heavens to set therein. Now, according to this inscription, okay, Amenhotep built a temple on the west bank of the Nile, or the west bank of Thebes. Okay, this is showing you that this is also the Libya mentioned by Herodotus. Okay, but he also says its beauty mingles with Manu when thou sailest over the heavens to set therein. Now, when he says thou sailest, when thou sailest over the heavens to set therein, he is talking about the sunset. Okay. Now notice he calls Amon Amon Ra, Amon Ray. Okay. But let me blow that up for you. Okay. Let's blow it up. Okay. So you can see it. Okay. Let's take our time. Okay. Let's not rush anything. Okay. But yeah, let's blow it up. And here it is. Okay. Hold up a little bit more. There we go. It says, yeah. So you can see it. King Amenhotep, he said, thou come Amon Ray, Lord of Thebes, presider over Karnak. Thou hast seen thy house which I have made for thee in the west of Thebes. Its beauty mingles with Manu when thou sailest over the heavens to set therein. Now, what is this saying? Okay. Now, the temple that Amenhotep built was, okay, obviously on the west bank of the Nile in Thebes. But he says here, Manu, when thou sailest over the heavens to set therein. Okay, he is talking about the sun, because he calls Amon Amon Ray. He is associating Amon with the sun god Ra or Ray. Okay, which Amon Ray can also be the sun god, which what it's saying here. It associates the two. So it's talking about the sun sailing, okay, sailing over the continent of Africa towards the land in the west, okay, towards the land of the sunset, very far from Egypt. Okay, this land of Manu is the same land mentioned by Herodotus. Okay, it's the same land of the Macrobians in the western Ethiopians mentioned by Herodotus. So he's talking about a very, very far land. Okay, that was the sun. Yeah, the sun, when the sun sails in the heavens and crosses over the continent of Africa, it is talking about the farthest land towards the sunset. That's what it's talking about. The real west, the true west. Okay. Okay, it's not talking about the Amenti. It's not talking about the land west of near Egypt. It's talking about the land to the extreme west of Egypt. That's what Manu means. Okay, the far. Now, when you're in Egypt, okay, when you're in Egypt, and you can even look up a picture on Google, look up the sunset of the Nile River or sunset in Egypt. You will see the sun, okay, sailing over the continent from the west bank of the Nile River. That's what it's talking about. It's talking about the land in the extreme west, okay? The real west, the true west, okay? The west bank of the Nile. The Amenti was also the west, but the real west was the extreme west, which was Manu, okay? That's what it's talking about. And I find it funny when I had a debate with a pseudo white Egyptologist, they were telling me that Manu is talking about the region on the west bank of the Nile, the mountains on the west bank of the Nile, which is a lie, okay? Which it does not say that. It's talking about the land in the extreme west, okay, towards the sunset, where the sun's that's the extreme west of Africa, meaning the west coast of Africa, near the Atlantic. That's the land it is talking about. And I find it funny. Well, I told him, well, it says here, okay, and the inscription of Hatshepsut. Okay, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the inscription of Hatshepsut. Now, notice it says here, okay, my southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt. Now, are you going to say the land of Punt was near Egypt as well? Are you going to say that what the land of Punt was the southern part, the southern border of Egypt? Okay, and what is now Kush? That's like placing Punt in Kush. Okay, but we see here that Punt was in the Horn of Africa. My southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt. It's talking about the Horn of Africa, the far south. Okay, but if you're going to say that Manu was on the west bank of Egypt, then you're going to have to say that Punt was on the east bank of Egypt, was near Egypt. Okay, but I find it funny how that they will agree that Punt was very far from Egypt to the south, but when it comes to Manu, the west, it was near Egypt. And here it says, and my eastern boundary is as far as the marshes of Asia. And the marshes of Asia is referring to the Euphrates. So are you trying to tell me that the Euphrates River was on the east bank of the Nile? No. See, your racism and your denial makes you dumb. It makes you deny the facts. That is the problem. It is racism. Dishonesty. That's the problem. The truth is here. So you're trying to say that the Tigris Euphrates in the marshes of Asia is on the east bank of the Nile? Okay, that makes no sense. Okay, you're dealing with a professional. You're dealing with a master teacher in this. You're not going to be able to pull that nonsense with me. Okay, so that shows you Punt, the land of Punt, was far south of Egypt. The marshes of Asia was far east of Egypt. Okay, and that shows you that Manu, the mountain of Manu, or the region of Manu, was far, far west of Egypt, extreme west of Egypt. Now, when I say extreme west, what do I mean? What was the boundary? The boundary is where it ended, which is the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, the boundary for Punt is where it ended, which is the Horn of Africa. And the boundary for the marshes of Asia was the Tigris Euphrates River. Okay, that's where it ended. So that's what it's talking about. Manu, the land of Manu. And let's find some more out about Manu. Okay, and we're going to go to the ancient records of Egypt, the 20th dynasty. Okay, and find out more about this region, Manu. And we're going to move on and take some questions in a little bit. Let's go here. This is during the reign of Ramesses III. Okay, Ramesses III. And he's talking about that same region, Manu. Okay, this is from the Ancient Records of Egypt, Volume 4, the 20th dynasty, the 20th to the 26th dynasty. Okay, and it's from it is an inscription from the temple of Medinet Habu, which was on the west bank of the Nile River in Thebes. Okay, and it says, and this is during the reign of Ramesses III. Okay, so you can see here. Okay, let's see here. All right. Yeah, see, 20th dynasty, Ramesses III. That's what it's talking about. Okay, let's go here. Okay, And it says, in quote, he made a monument as a great benefaction from a heart of love for his father, Amon Eni, ruler of Thebes, making for him a house of 1,000,000 years on the west of Thebes. Its beauty reaches Manu, like the heavens which bear the sun. The sun sails to therein. Okay, his love pervades its house. So it's also saying here that Manu, okay, is the land where the sun sets therein. It's talking about the extreme west. So it's connecting the west. It is saying it's connecting the west bank of the Nile, where the temple was built, with the extreme west in West Africa, which was Manu. That's where Manu was located. Okay, extreme west. Okay, when you hear the west bank of the Nile or the Amenti, okay, that is the west near Egypt or near the Nile. But when you hear the land towards the sunset, that is referring to the extreme west. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about the west bank of the Nile. It's talking about the true west. And the Egyptians had knowledge of this land. That's why they spoke of it. Okay. And we heard more of it from Herodotus. But yeah, let's move on here. Okay. Showing you the connection. Just as the land of Kush was mentioned, the land of Punt, yes, the west of Africa was also mentioned. and it was known as Manu. And this Manu region is the same as the land of the Western Ethiopians or the Macrobian Ethiopians mentioned by Herodotus. Okay. Okay. But let's deal with Manu one more time. Then we're going to take some questions and end it there. But yeah, we pretty much made our point. Okay. But let's deal with this land. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's another interesting inscription on Manu. Okay. So when you think of Manu, think of West Africa. Okay. Now the pseudo-Egyptologists, okay, who cannot accept the truth, even when the truth is smack dead in their face, will tell you that this is not West Africa. This is west on the west bank of the Nile. No, it's not saying that. It's saying that it was extreme west of the Nile. Okay, that's what it's saying. When they tell you it's on the west bank of the Nile, that's what they're saying. That's not what this is saying. Okay, this is saying something different. And he says, okay, Ancient Records of Egypt, okay, 20th Dynasty, page 9. Also during the reign of Ramesses III, he says, he made a monument for Amon. He made a house of 1,000,000 years on the west of Thebes. It is the place of his heart's satisfaction. In the district of Manu, the pure ground of the Lord of gods, the resting place of his divine in it. Okay. Okay. And it says, the divine Aditum since the time of the God, for the king of the gods. He is satisfied when he rests in it. When he reaches it, he is joyful of heart. Okay. So it's saying that Manu, okay, the temple of Amon, the temple of Amon on the west bank of the Nile is symbolic of the land, okay, of the land going, the temple of Amon on the west bank of the Nile is symbolic of the sun going towards the west, okay, going towards the land where it sets in, okay. So, and this was the extreme west, okay. That's the land that it's talking about, okay, the farthest land towards the west. When it says, because when the Egyptians, when they saw the sun sailing towards the west, they saw that land as the resting place of their god Amon. Okay, that's what it was symbolic of. Okay, but the actual land, the historical land, was the west coast of Africa. Okay, now when you look at it in a reality, now the sun, it goes under the earth. Okay, it really doesn't set in the land, but we have to look at this in a metaphorical, in a symbolic way. Okay, and when it speaks of the land of the sunset, it is talking about the farthest land towards the west of Africa, which is West Africa. So the temple of Amon, serving as a resting place for Amon, represents the sun traveling towards the west and resting in the west. Okay, that's what it's symbolic of. Okay, so this western land, okay, which was settled by a colony of Egyptians, which is why they knew of it. Okay, and these colony of Egyptians were none other than the Ethiopians. So the Ethiopians were the ones who reached this region called Manu. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. Okay, the temple on the west bank of the Nile, when he says it's the resting place of the god Amon, meaning it was the resting place, the land of the dead. Okay, this is another way of saying that this was the land of the dead, the resting place of the gods. Okay, and the resting place of the living descendants of dead kings. That's what it's talking about. That's what you have to understand. Okay, it was the land of the dead, but the people who dwelt there were the living descendants of the dead kings. Okay, and that's what it represents. When you get a better understanding of ancient Egyptian geography and ancient Egyptian myths and historical annals, that's the facts it's talking about. Okay, that is the fact it is referring to. The west, the resting place, the land of the dead. Okay, now, and that's what it's talking about. Now let's go to the comment section here. So now we just learned here, okay, that West Africa, the western parts of Africa, the land, the farthest land towards the sunset, is briefly mentioned in the hieroglyphics. Okay, so we don't have to come to any theory or make a guess or lie. We see right here that it is mentioned. Okay, because I'll tell you right now, that's why people love theories. That's why they love lies, because they sound so good. And you can make them sound how you want to sound. Okay. But yes, let's go to the comment section. Anthony Harris says, yeah, you learned how to work the StreamYard. Yes, brother. Yes, indeed. Yes, I got the hang of it real fast. Yeah, and I had no problems. Says, and we got a quote comment from Puntite General. The land of Punt is in Greater Somalia. Yes, that is a fact. And I want to touch on that as well. Let's go back to the 18th dynasty. Okay, I'm going to show that the land of Punt is in Somalia, but the land of the Macrobians is not in Somalia. That's what you have to understand. The land of the Macrobian Ethiopians was in West Africa. Without a doubt. Okay. Whoa. Okay. I didn't want to do that. Okay. But yeah, let's touch on that for briefly. Okay. And I'm going to show you that the land of Punt was in Somalia, in the Horn of Africa. Okay. And we're going to touch on that very briefly. Okay. Let's see here. But yeah, Here's the quote. Okay, let's touch on that very briefly. And it says, whoops, let's up. Let's go back. Okay. I'm going to read it very briefly. It says, in the annals of Tutmosis, during the reign of Hatshepsut, he says, let me blow it up. Okay. My southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt. Okay. So it's saying here, the southern boundary was as far as the land of Punt. Okay. Now, what was that southern boundary? Let's see here. Okay. My southern boundary is as far as the land of Punt. Okay. So now we just read Tutmosis saying that his southern boundary was as far as the land of Punt. Now let's go to this inscription, which was written during the time of Tutmosis II. I'm going to read it briefly here. So his southern boundary is the land of Punt. Now that southern boundary, it says here in quote, his southern boundary is as far as the horn of the earth. His northern is as far as the ends of the marshes of Asia. Okay. So we see here that southern boundary, the southern boundary, which was said to be the land of Punt, it is saying here that it is far as the horns of the earth. Now, this is talking about the same area, okay? The southern boundary, okay? So it's saying here, it's pretty much saying that Punt, his southern boundary, the land of Punt, was as far as the horns of the earth. So it's pretty much telling you, and when it says the horns of the earth, it is talking about the Horn of Africa, yes, which is modern day Somalia. So that right there places it without a doubt in the Horn of Africa, in Somalia, when the racists were trying to say that it was located in Arabia or in Asia, but we see here it was located at the horns of the earth, which is the horns of Africa. Okay. But yeah, we got that squared away. Okay. And so yes, if anybody got any questions, you can post questions and I'll answer questions, and I'm going to end it off here in a little bit. But yeah. But until we get a question, I also want to touch on this as well, because I wasn't able to stress this as hard as I wanted to. Okay. But yeah. But back to the subject of the Macrobians. Okay. Now we just learned that the Ethiopians, the ancient Ethiopians, had 18th dynasty written all over them. Okay. They were the people of the 18th dynasty, as we just read from the ancient records from the walls of the Medunet, okay, or the hieroglyphs. Okay. But yeah, also want to touch on this. Okay, now, as we just read, okay, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians were Egyptians. Now let's look at these statues here, okay? And I'm going to briefly make the distinction between the Kushites and the Ethiopians. Now, these here, this is from the tomb of Huey, okay, or the tomb of Hugh, okay, who was called the king's son of Kush, or governor of Kush. And these here are the Kushites, okay? These are your Kushites right here. These are your non-Egyptian Kushites right here, okay? These are not the Ethiopians, okay? These were your non-Egyptian Kushites. Because like I said, the Ethiopians were Egyptians, okay? They were mixed with Egyptians, and some were full Egyptians. Okay, but that's who made up the Ethiopians. And this right here, this image here, look at it. Those were Kushites. Okay, this right here is Kushite. See with the feather on his head? That's a non-Egyptian Kushite. Okay, those are your Kushites, different from Ethiopians. Okay, and also here from the tomb of Hugh. Okay, these right here are your Kushites. Okay, but these people here, these are your Egyptians. These are your Ethiopians, your Egyptians living in Kush. Okay, these are the Ethiopians right here. Okay, these were the Egyptians who migrated and settled into Kush and became the Ethiopians. Okay, these are the ancestors of the 25th dynasty. Look at that. See, they got the Egyptian collars, the Egyptian royal clothes, the Egyptian royal garments. These are Egyptians in Kush. Okay, and you see that they are the same skin color as the Kushites, but they are Egyptians. And we can tell they are Egyptians based on their dress and how their hair is. Okay, they got the Egyptians, the Kushites did not wear bead collars. Okay, these are Egyptians right here. You see that they are just as black as the Kushites. They look no different from the Kushites, but they are Egyptians. They were the Egyptians from the 18th dynasty who migrated south and settled in the land of Kush. Okay, and they also went west. Okay, because that's why the Egyptologists, they don't want you to know that these were Egyptians, because you're going to find out that you were also Egyptian. Your ancestors were also Egyptians, because whatever they were is what we were. Okay, that's what it's talking about. So we see here, these were Egyptians. Okay, look at this image here. Okay, now we see here the lady, or the person, or the prince, male is male or female or not, but but we see here the person riding in the chariot is Egyptian. Okay, but these people, the people in front of her who's giving tribute, are the Kushites. Okay, those are the Kushites. Okay, but the one in the chariot here, that is the Ethiopian. Okay, that right there, that's the Ethiopian. The Egyptians in Kush are the Ethiopians. Okay, that's what you have to understand. And look at here, and there's another thing I want you to pay attention to. Now you see here, you see the Kushites bowing down, but you see here these Ethiopians, or these Egyptians, they're not bowing down. You know why? Because they are Egyptians. And you also see the Kushites bringing tribute, but the Egyptians, these Egyptians here, they're not bringing any tribute, because they are the Egyptians from Kush. Yes, they are the Egyptians in Kush, and these are the Ethiopians. Okay, so you had the Egyptian Kushites you had Egyptians and Egyptian Kushites who were the Ethiopians, and you had the non-Egyptian Kushites who were not the Ethiopians. Okay, so that's what you have to understand here. So I just explained that. Now you see the Kushites bringing tribute. Okay, they're bearing tribute. Okay, see, look at that. They got gold. They're bowing down to the Pharaoh. These are the Kushites. These are the non-Egyptian Kushites. Okay, and those are the Kushites, and these are the Egyptians. Okay, I can't stress that enough. These are the Egyptians. So that I'm making the distinction between the Egyptians and the Kushites here, and it is clearly shown on the tomb of Hugh. Okay, look here. That's the Ethiopian riding in the chariot. Okay, bearing no tribute. Okay, and you see here the Kushite behind the Egyptian, or behind the Ethiopian, have a fetter around his neck. Okay, he is a prisoner. Okay, but the Ethiopian, the Egyptian riding in the chariot, okay, is the Egyptian or the Ethiopian. You see the Kushites bringing tribute. Those are the Kushites. That's what you have to understand, okay? All right. And these were the ancestors of the 25th dynasty. That's the truth. That's the historical reality. Now, some of you have your agenda and you may disagree with that, but that is the historical reality. Okay. These are the Kushites. Okay. They have ropes around their necks. Okay. Those are the Kushites. Okay. So keep that in mind. Those are the Kushites. Okay. And these are the Egyptians. Okay. You see the Kushites in front of them bowing down. And you see the Egyptians standing behind them with no tribute in their hand, and they're not bowing down because they are Egyptians. Yes. And they live in Kush. They are Egyptians living in Kush. And these same people, these same Egyptians who were living in Kush were also in West Africa, or the land of the Western Ethiopians. Okay. And you may ask, well, why there are no temples in West Africa? Well, just like I said, and I will go expand on it more in future videos, but the reason why you see no temples in West Africa, because it was a sacred ground. It was the land of the dead. It was the resting place of the gods. So temples were forbidden to be built in West Africa. And that's the facts on that, okay? And look at here, okay? Look at here. Let's go to this. These are the statues. The statues of the kings of the 25th dynasty. As you can see here, look, at clearly Egyptian. Clearly Egyptian, okay? Now, the Kushites we just showed bowing down and bearing tribute look nothing like this, okay? Okay, these are Egyptians. They had Egyptian ancestors. The 25th dynasty was a black Egyptian dynasty in Kush, okay? That's what you have to understand, okay? Yes, you can call them Kushites because they're living in the land of Kush, but their ancestors were Egyptians from Egypt, yes. So they are connected to Kush by land, but by blood, they were Egyptians. By lineage, they were Egyptians. Look at here. These are those same statues in, of the 25th dynasty kings, or what they call the Kushite kings, okay, what I will call the Egyptian kings in Kush. These are their statues. So look, even have Egyptian hieroglyphics behind their statues, showing that they are Egyptians. Fully Egyptian, okay? Look at here. This is the statue of Taharka, the 25th, the famous king of the 25th dynasty. Okay, Taharka, the Egyptian king of Kush. Look at that. Clearly Egyptian. You have the uraeus. Okay, you have the crown of Amon on his head. Okay, clearly Egyptian. So it is wrong for any Egyptologist to deprive these people of Kush, or the people of Sudan, of their Egyptian origin, and deprive West Africans of our Egyptian origin. Okay, and this right here is the temple of Taharka in what we know as Kawa, Nubia, Kawa. Kawa. And this is the temple of Taharka in Kawa, as we see here. Look at that. Clearly Egyptian. Egyptian gods, everything Egyptian about it. Okay. And these are the Egyptian temples in the land of Kush, showing it was settled by Egyptians. Okay. So explain that to me. How could Egyptians build temples in Kush if they're not in Kush? Huh? So you try to tell me that they were in Egypt and they used their mind and some meditation or some type of spook magic and cause the temples in Kush to be built in Kush without them being in Kush, without the builders being in Kush, but the temples in Kush still get built, but no Egyptians, but the builders were not there, but they got built. That makes no sense. Come on, people. Come on. Well, yeah, well, the Kushites were settled there, and well, they had they were influenced by the Egyptians, but no Egyptians were there. No, that is a lie. Okay, these temples built in Kush were built by Egyptians who were settled in Kush. Okay, these white racists are making you dumb. Okay, white racists are the dumbest people on the planet. They make no sense. They make no sense. Do not listen to them. If it's not corresponding with what the historical facts is saying, do not pay them any attention. And do not entertain their silly pseudo teachings. Okay, because it's going to make you dumb. And it's going to make you a liar and a fraud. Okay, these temples were built by Egyptians. Okay, and we see here, look there. That's the statue head of the Kushite king Piaki, showing you that it's Egyptian. Okay, it's 100% Egyptian. Nothing Kushite about it. These were Egyptians in Kush. Okay, and that's a historical fact. Okay, we have to stay within the historical chronology. Okay, so we just looked at the images and showed how these were Egyptians. Okay, so who we have in the house? Okay, so now we're gonna take some questions. But I'll be right back. Just give me a minute. Okay, yeah, I'm back. So now that we got that cleared away, okay, and I stress, and I can't stress it again, okay. You see here, this map. I'm going to show it one more time, then I'm going to end it. This map showing the Macrobians. This Herodotus map is a pseudo map. Okay, for those of you who are just joining us, this map is pseudo. Okay. We're going to read Herodotus one more time, okay? Because I can't stress it enough, okay? Where south inclines westward, the part of the world stretching farthest towards the sunset is Ethiopia. This produces gold in abundance, huge elephants, and all sorts of wild trees and ebony, and the tallest and handsomest and longest lived people. These are the most distant lands in Asia and Libya, okay? When it says longest lived, it's talking about the Macrobians. Okay, it is saying that the Macrobians were the farthest people towards the west of Egypt. Okay, and I also want to go over this as well, and then I'm going to take some questions. Okay, all right, and this is the map. I'm going to go over this briefly. Okay, this is the map showing the expeditions of the Persian king Cambyses. Okay, you see here, this is the map, and let us read the quote. Okay, all right, let's see here, just a minute. I'm going to touch on this briefly because I want to show you how these lies make no sense. Okay. Yes, I'm the only one teaching this truth. So you're not going to get this anywhere else, because all those other scholars who call themselves qualified or self-proclaim themselves as authorities are just too corrupt. They're not man enough to tell this truth, okay? Because they're scared of their white master. They're scared that the slave master is going to punish them. So they cannot tell this truth. A lot of them, they got their education from a white white college university, and they don't want to upset their white slave master. So therefore, their mind is too corrupt, and they cannot tell you this truth. Okay, and it says here, okay, I'm going to go to chapter 24. Okay, let's go here. Okay, I'm going to touch on this briefly, and then I'm going to take some questions. Okay, and it says here, Herodotus, book 3, chapter 25. It says, having seen everything, the spies departed again. When they reported all this, Cambyses was angry and marched at once against the Ethiopians, neither giving direction for any provision of food, nor considering that he was about to lead his army to the ends of the earth, okay, or the extremities of the earth, okay. And this is talking about the long-lived or Macrobian Ethiopians, showing that the ends of the earth means the western end, which I just showed, towards the sunset, okay, towards the western extremities of the earth, not the southern extremities of the earth, but the western or southwestern, but mainly western or west of Kush. Okay, that's what it's talking about. And he says here, okay, he was about to lead his army to the ends of the earth, being not in his right mind but mad. However, he marched at once on hearing from the fish eaters, ordering the Greeks who were with him to await him where they were, and taking with him all his land army. Okay, now it says he had his land army, which means he had no ships. He was marching. Okay, and there were no need for any ships. Okay, he had his land army. Nothing is said about ships. And he says here, okay, taking with him all his land army. And when he came in his march to Thebes, he detached about 50,000 men from his army and directed them to enslave the Ammonians and burn the oracle of Zeus. And he himself went onwards towards Ethiopia with the rest of his hosts. Okay, so now we're going to end it there. Okay, so we see here when Cambyses was marching with his land army, he had no ships. Okay, but we see here, okay, he was on the west bank of the Nile because he sent the army farther west to the Ammonians, which is modern day Siwa, where the oracle of Amon was. Okay, but it says here, okay, I'm going to continue and we're going to end it there. It's going to be brief. Okay, but he himself went towards the Ethiopia with the rest of his hosts. But before his army had accomplished the fifth part of their journey, they had come to an end of all was in the way of provision. And after the food was gone, they ate the beasts of burden until there was none of these left. Okay, now had Cambyses, when he perceived this, changed his mind and led his army back again, he would have been a wise man at last after his first fall. But as it was, he went ever forward, taking account of nothing, while his soldiers could get anything from the earth. Okay, kept themselves alive by eating grass. But when they came to the sandy desert, some did a terrible thing, taking by lot 1 man out of 10 and eating him. Hearing this, Cambyses feared their becoming cannibals, and so gave up his expedition against the Ethiopians and marched back to Thebes with the loss of many of his army. From Thebes, he came down to Memphis and sent the Greeks to sail away. So now we see here his march. His entire march was on the west bank of the Nile River. And when he got when he went beyond the southern border of Egypt to the land of Kush, okay, he did the same thing that his army did in Thebes, which was crossed the Western Desert. He went west to try to reach the Macrobians, but as we just read, it was a failed expedition, and he never reached the Macrobians. Okay, but let's go back to this map. Okay, so we see here, according to this map, you see here in the east, Cambyses' army. Okay, you see my mouse moving. Cambyses' army moved west into Egypt, and after they conquered Egypt, he was in Memphis, which I read earlier that Memphis was on the west bank of the Nile, where the pyramids stood. Okay, and from Memphis he went south to Thebes. Okay, and while in Thebes he sent the army west to Siwa and Amon, and then he marched further south. Okay, to Kush, or eastern Ethiopia, and while in Kush, he crossed the Western Desert to try to reach the Macrobians, which was located in the southwest, okay, in the extreme southwest, okay, and I'm going to touch more on that, why I place the Macrobians there, probably in another video, okay, but yeah, that deals with that. This is the correct map for the expeditions of Cambyses, okay. This is a map that I created, okay. None of that pseudo stuff that you read in those 17th century and 18th century books, okay? But yeah, but that's the truth on that, okay? Okay? The Macrobians, there was no way that Cambyses could have been hidden to the Horn of Africa, because the Horn of Africa was east of the Nile, okay? And when the Egyptians sailed to the land of Punt, or the Horn of Africa, they always reached the Horn of Africa by ship. So if Cambyses was going towards the Horn of Africa, or the land of Punt, he would have reached there by ship, and it would have been much easier as well than crossing the desert. He would have, if he had went there by ship, he would have made it. Okay, but it's saying here that he tried to cross the Western Desert, and he never reached the land of the Macrobians, because they were in the Western Desert. Now we know from Persia, he crossed the Sinai Desert to reach Egypt easily. Okay, and the Sinai Desert is also a large desert. Okay, what we see here, the Western Desert of Africa is much larger than the Sinai Desert, which is why he never reached the Macrobians, because they dwelt far beyond the Western Desert in West Africa. Okay, but if the Macrobians were in the land of Punt, as the liars will want you to believe, and we know here that he also attempted to send a fleet of ships to Carthage, but the Phoenicians, they refused to do it because they were bound by oath and were kinsmen to the Carthaginians, and the Carthaginians were descendants of the Phoenicians. So that expedition never happened, but he could have took those ships and sent them south to the Macrobians, and he himself would have also sailed in a ship to reach the Horn of Africa. Okay, but he did not. It's not mentioned. Okay, he did not. There was no way that the Macrobians were in the Horn of Africa, because that's the route he would have took. That's the same route the Egyptians took when they went to the land of Punt. And we see here that Cambyses did not go that route, but Cambyses and his army was on the west bank of the Nile the entire time. And while on the west bank of the Nile, they left the Nile and attempted to cross the Western Desert, okay, to reach both the Ammonians and the Macrobians, okay? Okay? And that is the truth about that, okay? That is the truth. Okay, showing you that the Macrobians dwelt in the far extreme west, beyond the Western Desert, not in the Horn of Africa, okay? And I just wanted to touch on that, okay? So let's go to the comment section. Okay. So we have Okay, we have 8. Okay, let's take some questions here. All right. So that pretty much wraps up our lesson for today. Okay, we learned that the land of the Macrobians was not in the Horn of Africa, or was not south of Egypt, but was in the extreme west of Africa, on the west coast of Africa. And we learned that the Ethiopians were descendants of ancient Egyptians. Okay, we learned that. And we also learned that the Ethiopians, everything about the Ethiopians was Egyptian. And everything about the Ethiopians had 18th dynasty written all over it. That's what we learned. Okay. Okay. And so let's take some comments. Okay. All right. So yeah, we're going to take some questions. Okay. So now, yeah, and if you miss the lesson, okay, the video will be posted on YouTube probably in 24 hours, maybe the next day. Sometime it posts within 1 hour, but yeah, you can go watch the whole video again. Okay, now we've been here 2 hours and 21 minutes. Okay, so we'll do it for about 10 minutes and take some questions here, and then we're going to wrap it up. And also, let's stop sharing. Okay, I will put the link in the chat if anybody wants to come, discuss this topic or discuss anything that's on your mind. You're more than welcome. Okay, so let's put the link in the chat. And okay, all right, there's the link in the chat. Okay, if you disagree with me and you want to debate me on this topic, have a discussion, let's do it. Okay, because I will really be interested in what you have to say. Okay. Okay. But until somebody comes in, but if you don't want to debate me, if you disagree with me and you don't want to debate me, well, then forever hold your peace. Okay. Like my video. Okay. Okay. Because by you not debating me, but you disagree with me, pretty much shows that you really do agree with me. Okay. Okay. And you can't refute my information. So don't hate, congratulate. Okay. And like I said, if you don't want to come in and chat and state why you disagree with me, then forever hold your peace and subscribe to my channel and hit the thumbs up. Okay. Give a brother his props. Okay. Don't hate, congratulate. Okay. But if you disagree with me, then hit the link and let's debate. But if not, just leave your comment in the comment section and forever hold your peace. But let's go over some comments here. Okay. Now, so we're going to deal with the most recent comments. So, we got someone from a Chinese right now. I can't read it because I don't speak Chinese, but he says, yeah, but Africa always there to help the other in negative bloodlines enslave the rest of their slighter melanated brothers and sisters. Am I wrong? Yes. No, actually, yes. Yes, I agree that Africans did enslave other Africans, but those Africans were, can I say, manipulated and influenced by religion. Okay, a lot of those Africans who sold their African brothers were either of the Abrahamic faith or the Islamic faith. Okay, they were Muslims. Okay, and they had friendship with European Christians. So, said, see, the Chinese writing says, okay, it said, is there a possibility that Atlantis, Persia, along with the Aztec and Mayan Empire, as well as Israel and Africa, are all one? No, that is wrong. Okay, Persia was in the far east. Atlantis was in the far west. Okay, and the Aztec was in the farther west in America. Okay, now Atlantis was a part of Africa. Okay, according to the story. Okay, because when we go to Herodotus states that the Atlanteans dwelt near the Pillars of Hercules in Africa. And the name of the Atlanteans derives from the Atlas Mountains, which is in Africa. So yes, it was Atlantis was near West Africa, and Persia was in the towards the east of Asia and what we know today as Iran. So definitely not the same same location, not the same people. No. Okay. That's the truth when you stick to the story and don't make up your own theories. Okay. Says, did Atlantis really exist? Well, reading the story, I will say yes, it did exist. Okay, because there's nothing mythical about it. Okay. I mean, people will say anything, you know, they try to make we'll take the simplest statements and you know, make it mythical. Okay, it said that Atlantis was an island. It was a round island full of gold and chariots, you know, and full of plants and trees, you know, food growing out the ground. There's nothing mythical about that. That's historical. That's real. Now, if the count of Atlantis said something like, well, yeah, they had flying horses with wings, or ponies flying in the air with wings, or the men were 100 feet tall, you know, then that is mythical. Okay, that is mythical. But there's nothing mythical about living on a round island and living in a land full of gold and trees and elephants and stuff like that, and chariots and, you know, and armies. There's nothing mythical about that. So yes, I believe that, yeah, it could have existed. Yes. Okay. I mean, just like the Macrobians. Okay, you have some people who say that the Macrobians, the long-lived Ethiopians in West Africa, okay, were mythical because they were called tall and they lived to be 120 years old. Okay, and they were real strong, and they knew how to shoot the bow and arrow. They call that mythical. There's nothing mythical about that. Okay, okay, there's nothing mythical or nothing mythical or fantasy about being tall or living in the land of gold or being strong enough to, you know, draw a bow and arrow. There's nothing mythical about that. What are you talking about? That's historical reality. Okay, there's nothing mythical about that. So yes, that's my opinion on that. Okay. Says, I make up my own theories as I go. My bad. Yes, and I had to change my name in Chinese to avoid the trolls stalking me online. Yes, that's understandable. Yeah, I always have trolls come on my channel. And we got a comment from Chi 31715. What do you think of Ramesses being E1 B1A? Okay. Now, he speaks of Ramesses, the DNA of Ramesses being E1 B1A. Now I heard many different sides of the story on that DNA study. Okay, that says Ramesses is and it links Ramesses to Central and West Africa. Now, I say that that is proof that Black Americans and West Africans are descendants of the ancient Egyptians. Okay, I mean, what more do you want? Okay, I just read the history, the text, and also DNA is saying it, but some of you still can't accept it. Now, some try to say that DNA proves. Now, when I read the study, and I'm going to do more research on it, but if you got the answer to it, please let me know. Okay, which branch of E1B1A is talking about for Ramesses, because it doesn't say that. Okay, you know that African Americans have a certain branch of E1B1A, and I read one article that Ramesses III also had this same branch of E1B1A. But then I read another study, another argument saying that it was preceded the branch that is found in African Americans. So, but y'all say, yeah, that's just more evidence that we are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. Okay. Okay. All right. It says Puntite general. The testing done to determine Ramesses III haplogroup was inaccurate, as the study itself tells us the results were based on a randomized assumption of the imputed data. He would have been E1B, 1B. Well, that's according to the source. He was E1B1A. Okay. But like I said, I don't agree with, DNA studies, a lot of DNA studies, because there are many errors, and it's based on many theories and assumptions, and they can't come to a solid conclusion on these DNA studies. But we have to go by the original source. Now, if the original source is saying that Ramesses III, the DNA of Ramesses III was E1B1A, then that's what it is. Okay. Okay. We can't go changing history. Okay. It says, if Atlantis exists in your opinion, facts back then, that means you saying mermaid used to exist back then, like Atlantis. Just asking. Okay. Well, first of all, the story of Atlantis is found in the writings of Plato. Okay. And Plato says nothing about mermaids in Atlantis. Okay. So I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe you got that from a later source after Plato, but the original source, which is Plato, says nothing about mermaids. Okay. Everything he mentioned is real. Okay. And we have a question from Taharka. He says, what is your take on Kustul? Where the first pharaonic civilization was established in Tarseti, which was excavated by Keith Seal, an article published by Bruce Williams. Okay. Yes. My take on Kustul, interesting that you mentioned it. My take is, yes, that is the region where the ancestors of the first pharaohs came from. Okay. The first pharaohs of the first dynasty. Okay. Now, we're not talking about the most ancient or the most distant ancestors. I'm talking about the direct ancestors of the first dynasty. Okay. Came from the area of Kustul in Nubia. That's what that proves, because when we deal with the founders of Egypt, okay, the founders of Egypt were the wearers of the white crown. And the first original wearers of the white crown, which means the crown of the south, was found in the area of Kustul and also the area of Aswan, okay, which is not that far from Kustul, okay? But it clearly shows that the first pharaohs, the founders of Egypt, okay, the uniter of the two lands, came from Nubia in the area of Kustul, okay? And this is also supported by the historian Diodorus Siculus, who mentions it in his book 3. So, yes, my take on that is that this is where the ancestors of the first pharaohs originate from. Okay. We have a question from Pushite General. Says, when did the Kushites settle near Turkey? I would say sometime during the New Kingdom. Okay. I would say during the 18th dynasty. Okay. When the Egyptians conquered that part of Asia. Okay. And somewhere along that, a army of Tutmosis, who I believe was Sesostris, migrated, went north of the Tigris-Euphrates region into the area of the Kushites in Russia. So I will say the 18th dynasty. Some say that it was during the 19th dynasty, during the reign of Ramesses, but I say the 18th dynasty. So yes, during the 18th dynasty, that's when that conquest and migration and dispersion took place, was during the 18th dynasty. Okay. And the same time those Egyptians migrated into Kushites was the same time when those Egyptians migrated south into Sudan and into West Africa. Okay. He says, Pushite General, but the whole area was Kushitic people anyways. Okay. Yes, I agree. Okay. Now, when we deal with Kush, now I heard some scholars confuse Kush with the capital Napata. Okay. All right. Which is this channel called Home Team History. Okay. Which, you know, I see he's a very educated brother, but you know, sometimes he teaches pseudo history. And he made a video about Kush, okay, saying that the Kushites in the land of Kush only apply to the area of Napata in Jebel Barkal, what we know today as Northern Sudan. Well, I don't agree with that, and that is a lie, okay? Because you can't confuse Kush with the capital of Kush, okay? Napata was the capital of Kush, not the whole land of Kush, okay? That's what you have to understand. That's like saying that the city of Memphis or the city of Thebes was only Egypt. No, Memphis and Thebes were the capitals of Egypt. Okay, not all of Egypt. So you can't confuse the capitals of Kush with Kush. Now, when we get into the early conquest of Kush, okay, we find that in the 12th dynasty, which was being made by Sesostris or Senusret III, and he conquers Kush in south of Egypt, and that whole area was known as Kush. And later on, the 18th dynasty kings during the reign of Tutmosis conquered the rest of Kush, which was further south of Egypt. So being that said, we have to see Kush as all of the land south of Egypt, okay? From the first cataract, from the second cataract, all the way south to the source of the Nile. That was Kush, okay? So when the ancient Egyptians conquered Kush, they only conquered and settled some of Kush, okay? But they didn't conquer and settle the rest of Kush further to the south. But all of that area was Kush, okay? From the source of the Nile River all the way to the first cataract was Kush, was Kushite territory. Okay, so that's my take on that. Okay. Okay. He said Romos came from Somalia. No, I never said Romos came from Somalia. Yeah. You're talking about home team history. Yes. Yes. He may have said that. Yeah, because that sounds like something that he will say. Okay. Yeah, but I never said that. Okay. Says no, they didn't. They were ancient Egyptians, mate. Okay. Says, yeah, mermaids were giants as well. Dragons, brown and black people control them all. Yeah, that's pure fantasy. Okay. Says AA, can anyone see my comment? Yes, I see your comment, AA. And we're not going to have any time to go over them comments that you maybe on another live stream, because that was a long comment section. Okay. And like I said before, yes, you lost that debate because you didn't prove your point. Okay, you ignored the sources. Okay, and you had faith in your own opinion, in your own imagination, and you lost that debate. Okay, but okay, let's take a little more questions, and then we're going to end it. Okay, I already read that. Show my comments who were okay. Yeah, I already dealt with that. Yeah, we're not going to deal with that in this video. Are you going to take trips? A message from Taharka. Are you going to take trips to Sudan and Aswan? Oh yes, definitely, definitely. When this pandemic madness is over with, yes, I plan on taking trips, and when I do, I'm going to take pictures and document what I see, and then I'm going to share it with you all. Okay, I'm going to share it with my subscribers and viewers as well. So yes, when that happens, I'll let you know. I'm definitely going to take a trip there soon. It's been one of my biggest goals to take a trip to Sudan and Aswan. Okay. Yes, and not only that, I plan on taking more than one trip. More than one trip to Egypt, Aswan, and Sudan as well. Okay. So that's why European in the time took over Africa. European could not take over. So we have a question from apologist Tony. Okay, the time European could take over in Ethiopia because this country was might and Africa was there always. Okay, I guess he's talking to somebody else. Okay, so we have a comment from Kushite General. No, if Cambyses made the stupid choice to reach Somalia through sea, he would be crushed because we are a hydraulic empire. Go study what happened to the Portuguese when they made that stupid choice. Yeah, I see what you're talking about there. But yeah, but Cambyses was never, he was never. It was never his intention to reach the Horn of Africa or Somalia. He was going towards. It was his intention to reach West Africa. Okay, because that's where the Macrobians dwelt. But yeah, but if he was sailing in a ship, if he was going there by ship, he would have made it. Yes, because it was much more convenient to sail by ship than it was to cross the desert. Okay, so that right there destroys the pseudo theories and the argument of these 17th century and 18th century pseudo geographers such as Ludwig Herrien and James Rennell. Okay, I don't know how they came to that conclusion that these people dwelt in the Horn of Africa when Herodotus clearly shows that when Herodotus clearly shows that Cambyses had no intention going near the Horn of Africa. He was always on the west bank of the Nile, and he crossed the Western Desert, which was not the Horn of Africa, but was West Africa. Okay, and if Cambyses had took a ship, yes, he would have made it, but that was not his destination. His destination, his intended destination was West Africa, not the Horn of Africa. Okay, yeah. It's Somali ham. Okay, it's Somalian ham. Why is there so many Somalia agents on YouTube lying about them, not seeing up the Hebrews with other negative bloodlines, or am I missing something? Yes, the Somalians are from the lineage of Ham. Okay, and as I said before, the Hamites, Ham was indigenous to Africa. Okay, that's what the Bible says. They did not come from anywhere else. They did not come from Mesopotamia. They were indigenous to Africa. Yes, the Somalians are from the lineage of Ham, but they are also from the lineage of Cush. So they are from both the lineage of Ham and Cush. And as I said before, the West Africans, the African Americans, are both from the lineage of Ham and from the lineage of Mizrahim, or from Egypt. Okay, it says Egypt is a small part of Africa, enslaved the Israelites. Okay, so yeah, let's deal with the most recent comments, and then we're gonna end it after that. Okay, it says Puntite General says at Radio 1, do you agree the Achaemenid Empire were Africans? Well, I believe that the Achaemenid Empire, yes, they do have some ties to the ancient Egyptian and Kushite Empire. Okay, because Herodotus says that, that the founder of Perseus, that the founder of the Persian was Perseus, an Egyptian, and he also says that the Persians, that the lineage of the Persians come from Cephas or Kephis, who was an Ethiopian king as well. So, and but yes, also Persian. The word Persian is Egyptian. It's an Egyptian word. Okay. And according to Herodotus, book 4, chapter 37, I believe, he says that Persia was to the south and the land of the Medes was to the north. Now, Persia or Persi, P-R-S, that is the Egyptian word for south or southerner. And we know that the Persians were seen as southerners, and the people to the north of them were the Medes, and further north were the Kotians. So, yes, so Persian is actually an Egyptian word. And we also read that according to Herodotus, Sesostris, the king, when he conquered Asia, he marched north, okay, from the area of Persia and the Tigris Euphrates all the way north to the Kotians region, where he sent an army. So that could have been a time when these Egyptians were in Persia and had influence on Persia. So, but for the most part, the Persians or the Achaemenid Empire was an Elamite or Aryan empire, okay, which is Semitic, but it could have had a little African influence as well. But I would say a mixture of both. Okay, yes, I would say that a mixture of both Asiatics who were already there and Africans who came there from the Nile Valley had influence on the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Okay, and this also goes back to Nimrod, mentioned in the Bible as the son of Cush. Okay, so Puntite General says, Radio 1, you need to do more videos on West Africa. To your ancestors ruled over America before the Europeans. Yes, that's a very interesting topic. Yes, yeah, and there is sources that mentions the voyages to the west, okay, of Phoenicians, and there's some mention of Egyptians as well, sailing further west. But yeah, I will definitely do more videos on West Africa, showing also the pharaohs of West Africa, okay, who ruled the Ghana Empire and Mali and Songhai Empire. Since there were Africans in the Persian Empire, yes, actually, yes, Africans definitely had influence on the Persian Empire. Now, matter of fact, I will show you here, okay? I'll show you here, and I'm going to end it in a little bit here, okay? I will show you here. Okay, Cyrus the Great, okay? And when we look at, I'm going to pull it up here in a minute, okay? I'm going to do a little screen share, but yeah, I'm going to show you how Persian, the African influence on Persia, okay? Let's see here. Okay, let's go to Cyrus the Great relief. Now, I'm going to pull this up, then I'm going to do some screen share here, okay? I'm going to show you that the influence that Persia. Oh, come on. Yeah, just be patient. Just give me a little more time here, okay? But let's go to Tutmosis III. Yeah, I'm going to show you here. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. Be patient, okay? I'm pulling it up. So let's go to screen share, okay? And I'm going to show you the similarities of the Persian king and the Egyptian, okay? Okay. Let's go to screen share here. I'm going to wrap it up in a little bit here. So screen share. Okay. And let's see here. Now, let's go to this image of on a chair of King Tut. Now, if I can get a bigger image, I can show you the Egyptian influence on the Persians. Come on, man. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay. Now let's blow up this image. Okay. I hope you can see it, but now as you can see here, look, you see the crown on King Tut head. Okay. Look at this crown on King Tut head on the King Tut chair. Let's see if I can find a better image. Okay, because that image is not doing anything for me. I'm trying to find the original image. Okay, now this might help out here. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, look at here. I'm going to blow it up here. As a matter of fact, let's save that image. Okay. Let's look at it. Okay. Now, this here is the image of King Tut chair. Now, you see that? Look at that crown. You see King Tut's crown? Look at that. Okay. Now I'm going to take you to an image of one of the only surviving images of Cyrus the Great. Okay. And here's the image of Cyrus the Great. Okay. Let's save that. Okay. Let's get that in there. This is a relief image of Cyrus the Great. I'm going to take where I can blow it up at. Now look at that. Now you see that? Look at that crown. Isn't it similar to what King Tut is wearing? Okay. Let's try to put the images side by side. Okay. Isn't that similar to what King Tut is wearing? Now I'm going to put them side by side. Here's King Tut. And here's the image of Cyrus the Great. You see he got the wings as well. The wings of Horus. Look at that. So look at that crown. You see? Same crown. Same crown that King Tut is wearing, Cyrus the Great is wearing. Okay? But we know that King Tut lived before Cyrus the Great. So that shows you that it came from Egypt. It originated in Egypt. Okay, look at that, the same crown. okay, which is called, I believe it's called the Atif crown, okay? And that's the same crown that's being worn by King Tut. Same crown. Same crown that's on King Tut's head is on Cyrus the Great head, showing you the ancient Egyptian African influence on the Persian Empire, and showing that Herodotus was correct in saying that the Persians had Egyptian ancestors, okay? Okay? Showing you that the Egyptians were everywhere. They were in West Africa. They were in East Asia, okay? That's what you have to understand. Look at that. Same crown. Exact same crown. Let me blow it up some more, okay? In case you can't see it. But yeah, same crown. Exact same crown. Okay. Same crown with the three, yeah, with the feather, two feathers, and the and the three knobs in the middle. Same crown. Look at that. On the left, that's Cyrus of Persia. On the right, that's King Tut, showing you the Egyptian influence on Persia. Okay, so I would say both. It was a mixture of both African and Asian. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm going to take a couple more questions. Okay. Then were there pharaohs? There were no pharaohs. Okay. Puntite General says there were no pharaohs in West Africa, bro. What? No, that is a lie. Okay. The kings of Ghana, the kings of the Ghana Empire, Mali, the kings of the Mali Empire, and the kings of the Songhai Empire were pharaohs of West Africa. Okay. Just like the pharaohs in Egypt, they ruled all the region around the Niger River. Okay. Okay. Now you see many borders and many presidents in West Africa today. Okay. But back then, during the Ghana Empire, there was only one pharaoh. There was only one supreme powerful king of that entire region. Okay. Showing that they were the pharaohs of West Africa. Yes. So all of that broken up region that you see in West Africa today has nothing to do with the ancient world, okay, or with the Ghana Empire, okay. So yes, you are wrong on that one, Puntite General. There were pharaohs in Africa, and they were our ancestors as well, okay. Okay. Says Puntite General. So you're telling me they went by the title Pharaoh? Well, first of all, okay. Actually, there was a tribe. Now that you mention that, there was a tribe in West Africa called the Pharaohs. Yes. And I'm going to show you it. I'm going to show you. Okay. I can show you better than I can tell you. Let's go to screen share. Okay. There was a tribe in West Africa called Pharaohs. Okay. And I see Taharka question. Yes, I'm going to answer that question, Taharka, in a minute. Yes, just give me a minute here. Okay. Now, oops, something went wrong here. Okay, something went wrong. All right. Y'all just had a breakup here. Taharka asks, what is your take on Idris Elba playing Pharaoh Taharka? That's new news to me. Okay. I have to do more research on that. Yeah, but that's new news to me. Okay, I'm having problems with my computer here. Okay, so bear with me. Might take a little time. Let's exit out of this. Okay, so my computer can run better. Okay. Yeah, that is new news to me. Okay. About to end it here. Okay. We're gonna wait. Yes, I'm having. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but Yeah, my computer is having trouble here, so just bear with me. But yeah, definitely the Africans came into Persia, came into Asia before the Asians came into Africa. So the Africans had influence on Asia before the Asians had influence on Africa. That's a fact. Okay. Now, what is going on here? Okay. So my computer is acting up. Okay. Yeah, I'm about to end it here in a little bit. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Come on. Come on. Let's see here. Just give me a minute. Okay, we're having some trouble here. My computer is tripping. Just give it some time. Okay. No, we don't want to close out. Okay. What is going on here? Let's see here. What is going on? Okay. Yeah, we're back. Okay. Well, what's going on here? Okay. Let's remove that. Yeah, if anyone's still there, just leave a comment. Okay. Leave a comment. Okay. Yes, we're still in the house. Okay. Yes, I had problems with my computer. It shut down. So but we're good now. So Taharka's, yeah, we're going to answer Taharka's question as well. But yeah, to answer your question, Putai General, yes, there were pharaohs in West Africa. Okay. Okay, when Egypt was being ruled by the Persians, okay, pharaohs were in West Africa. Okay. I mean, when Egypt was being ruled by the Persians and by the Islamic Arabs, when Egypt was being ruled by the Islamic Arabs, there was still pharaohs in West Africa. Okay, in the end, the power of the pharaohs in West Africa came to an end when the Songhai dynasty came to an end. Okay, the Songhai dynasty was the last pharaonic empire of West Africa. Yes, that's what you have to understand. Okay, and those were our ancestors. Is Atlantis, then Egypt, then into Persia. Okay. Hi, sir. I'm still here. Galvin White. Yes. Welcome, Galvin White. Taharka says, is Home Team a great source for teaching African history? What's your opinion about Home Team? Now, Home Team has no integrity. He pretty much he's all over the place. He's not, and his teachings are not solid and truthful because he's all over the place. He's trying to please everyone, and that causes him to teach pseudo history. So a lot of times he is wrong. Okay, he is very knowledgeable, but he is wrong when it comes to teaching about ancient Egypt and Kushite Ethiopia. Yes, he may be on point about West African history, but his teachings are pseudo when it comes to connecting West Africa with ancient Egypt and Ethiopia. That's my take on that. Okay. Says a 26th dynasty pharaoh traveled to all parts of Africa. Okay. Pontai General said, why is there no pharaonic records or artifacts backing up what you're saying? Well, when we deal with the pharaohs in Egypt, okay, those were the pharaohs those were the temple pharaohs, okay? The pharaohs in West Africa were different pharaohs. They did, okay? But the style of their kinship, the way they fought their wars, okay? The formation of their army, infantry, horsemen, chariots, one king ruling the entire region was pharaonic, okay? The style of their kingship was pharaonic, okay? So yes, they were pharaohs, okay? And we find no type of kingship of that caliber also in Somalia. Yes, we know from the records that Somalia was made up of different chiefs, okay, not one supreme ruler. Okay, West Africa, the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, the Songhai empires of West Africa had one supreme ruler, okay, and that was pharaonic, okay. Yes, I do have sources, and I will probably show them next video, but we're about to end it here. And yes, and Taharka says Armenaris. Yes, that was also a Kushite queen, not a Kushite, but an Egyptian Kushite queen. Okay, that's the better way to put it. So yeah, we're about to end it here. I took all the questions that I could, and so we learned that pretty much that the Macrobians were located in West Africa, not in the Horn of Africa, and the Ethiopians were Egyptian. Everything about the Ethiopians was Egyptian, and they were Egyptians. They were more Egyptian than Kushite. That's what we learned, okay? Okay, so we learned that Ethiopians, the people of West Africa, were Ethiopians, and the Ethiopians were descendants of Egyptians. So Puntai General says, yes, but that was after the fall of our empire, Punt. Okay, but yeah, if you can show a source for that, yeah, I'll be glad to look at it. If you can show me where one supreme ruler ruled Somalia, okay, I would like to see that. Okay, even a mention of it, or and if it has a name of that king, that'd be even better. But yeah, there was a pharaonic empire, a pharaonic rulership going on in all parts of Africa. Okay, in the Sudan, you had the 25th dynasty kings who were pharaohs of Sudan. Okay, you had the pharaohs of West Africa ruling the entire Niger River region. Okay, known as the Ghana, Mali, and Songhai Empire. But yes, that's going to wrap it up, people. Stay tuned for the next live stream. And this is your brother Radio 1. Okay, this is your brother Radio 1 signing out, saying until next time, Egypt stays in Africa. Okay, peace, Hotep, and Amon Ra. And may you all have a wonderful day. Peace, and I will see you later. Hotel.